So, explain to me again.
Explain that.
Because the man them say.
Simple, as a country's alternate Minister of Finance. I am telling everybody, just go on the Ministry of Finance website. Just go in Google, type in MOF, and when you see the thing come up, you will see fiscal operations.
Right.
And you click on fiscal operations and you see central government operating tables, and you see the month. April, May, June, July, August, September.
I want you to explain something else.
Simple.
You see, because it cannot just be misleading.
It's not misleading, it's lying.
Well, that's my point. Because if you are saying we're doing all of these things without borrowing, what is this borrowing?
Okay. When the minister released
I can only assume they are going to tell me that no, we borrowed to service this, which is a norm. So we borrowed to service education, health, we're not borrowing to fix roads. So we get the money to fix the road.
All of the funds, when the Minister of Finance reads the budget, he brings to Parliament not only the yellow book,
right,
but he also bring a book called the Debt Management Strategy, which is signed off by people like Diane Black, who heads the debt management unit in the Ministry of Finance.
Right.
And the minister tells you how much money he's going to borrow to help.
And this is a legal thing because he has to do this.
Yeah,
right. This is part of the law.
Collecting of taxes to fund the budget. So Nigel Clark, when he came to the Parliament, he said that he was going to collect $1 trillion in taxes, and the rest, $380 billion, will come from $260 billion in borrowing, $4.162 billion in grants that are money we get from other people free.
Right.
And it will be drawing down some $887 million from the Capital Development Fund, which come out of the bauxite and alumina sector, in order to fund the budget. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah? It'll be about of the $260 billion, $60 billion would come from the IMF. A portion would come from Saudi Arabia and all of those places that they use for the road projects and them something. You with me?
Right.
Up to November, they drew down $102 billion of that money. The plan was to draw down only $100 billion, but they draw down $102.2 billion. So the people can go on the Ministry of Finance's website and see it for themselves.
This report also said something like, in terms of this borrowing, like 56 billion come from the
local market and 44 from the
overseas.
External market.
Right. So the local market is when them put, when them do the TD them and all them stuff.
Yeah, the treasury bills. Right now, if you go on the Bank of Jamaica website, because the Bank of Jamaica do the floating for them.
Right.
If you go on the Bank of Jamaica website, you see that 3 treasury bills were floated this week, and all of them were oversubscribed. Yep.
Which is borrowing.
Yeah, but I mean, borrow the money. Borrow the money, you know what you do.
So them have a different meaning for borrow.
Then maybe them take the people up for food. Or maybe them believe that people don't know how to find these things.
No, but Rasta, no, that can't be the argument.
But Simon, what else could be the argument? Again, I tell you, when the minister, the thing we call the public sector borrowing requirement.
Yes.
So you will never be able to collect enough taxes to fund the budget, so you have to borrow. When you run a fiscal deficit, it means you borrow the money.
So that's what the man them said. It's a norm to borrow, but we not borrow for fixed road.
The way the money is commingled, you do the money, all of the money come in at one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you get to pay Simon, you have your house for the money where you get. Not enough. So you say I gotta borrow some money.
Glad you know.
Yeah, that's right. So you say I gotta borrow some money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when you borrow the money, you put it together with your salary, you do what you need for do. It's just a simple thing as that.
So you're sure it's not a different word?
No, there's no different. No different. There's no different.
So when the man said we don't borrow no money for fixed road,
he's lying. Because all the money will come from Saudi Arabia and then places, the money for fixed road and the water supply and irrigation and all of them something. He's lying.
And he's borrowing.
Yeah. The only money we have a specific purpose for. IMF money are for balance of payment support. That are the only money we have a specific tag for. We have to use for a specific purpose. The other money you can just commingle and do whatever you want to do. Stupidness.
Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the ways of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law do we meditate day and night. For we shall be like trees planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth our fruit in our season. Our leaves shall not wither, and whatsoever we do shall prosper. Welcome to Portland Spice TV for yet another Tuesday night. Yeah, man. We are now 14 days into the new year. And I saw something today that we have murdered over 40 odd persons already. Too bad. Too bad, Jamaicans. We're too bad. Sadly, in Portland today, we had a motor vehicle accident this morning. The driver lost his life. Want to send out condolences to his family and friends. Welcome to the show tonight, the Collin Bell Show, where we speak truth and nothing but the truth. We don't claim to be the wealth of all, the reservoir of all knowledge. So if we say something and we get it wrong, we are willing to apologize and withdraw it. We have no intention of misleading anybody or bamboozling anybody. Our intention is to speak the truth and nothing but the truth. So, still trending on TikTok is that video that I did with a clip from Nationwide and a clip from the RGR News. One where the Minister of Works is saying that the government don't borrow no money to fix the roads. And some people are clutching on to that and they are saying that we are misleading people when we are telling the people that the government is borrowing. We don't mislead people. The government is indeed borrowing money to finance the budget. Jamaica has only one budget, a budget of $1.38 trillion. That's the budget that was tabled by the Andrew Wellness-led administration. 1 trillion of it will come from taxes and other resources from the country. But the $380 billion, we have to borrow some of that, most of that. Some of it we get in grants, as you heard Ralston Hyman a while ago. I want to touch back the tape so you listen to it some more. Because our intention is to educate the people of Jamaica, that the people must make informed decision. Tonight is going to be a very, 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 very interesting program. I'm going to give you some time for share the channel, call some people, tell them forward. Lawrence Rowe pushing back at the People's National Party after he was withdrawn as the candidate for Central Kingston. Lots of things out there. Last Saturday morning, we spoke to the Shadow Minister of Agriculture and the General Secretary of the People's National Party, Comrade Dayton Campbell. Tonight.
Explain to me again.
Explain that.
Because the man them say.
Simple, as the country's alternate Minister of Finance. I am telling everybody, just go on the Ministry of Finance website. Just go in Google, type in MOF, and when you see the thing come up, you will see fiscal operations.
Right.
And you click on fiscal operations and you see central government operating tables and you see the month. April, May, June, July, August, September.
I want you to explain something else.
Simple.
You see, because it cannot just be misleading.
It's not misleading, it's lying.
Well, that's my point. Because if you are saying we're doing all of these things without borrowing, what is this borrowing?
Okay. When the minister released
I can only assume they are going to tell me that no, we borrowed to service this, which is a norm. So we borrowed to service education, health, we're not borrowing to fix roads. So where you get the money from to fix the road?
All of the funds, when the Minister of Finance reads the budget, he brings to Parliament not only the yellow book,
right,
but he also bring a book called the Debt Management Strategy, which is signed off by people like Diane Black. who heads the debt management unit in the Ministry of Finance.
Right.
And the minister tells you how much money he's going to borrow to help.
And this is a legal thing because
man.
he has to do this.
Yeah, man,
right? This
because
is part of the
you
law.
never collect enough
Right.
taxes to fund the budget. So Nigel Clark, when he came to the parliament, he said that he was going to collect $1 trillion in taxes, and the rest, $380 billion, will come from $260 billion in borrowing, $4.162 billion in grants that are money we get from other people free,
Right.
and it will be drawing down some $887 million from the Capital Development Fund, which come out of the backside of the alumina sector in order to fund the budget. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah? It'll be about after $260 billion, $60 billion would come from the IMF. A portion would come from Saudi Arabia and all of those places that they use for the road projects and them something. You with me?
Right.
Up to November, they drew down $102 billion of that money. The plan was to draw down only $100 billion, but they draw down $102.2 billion. So the people can go on the Ministry of Finance's website and see it for themselves.
This report also said something like, in terms of this borrowing, like 56 billion coming
From the local market and 44 from the
overseas.
external market.
Right. So the local market is when them put
All right.
when them do the TD them and all them stuff.
Yeah, the treasury bills. Right,
Right.
If you go on the Bank of Jamaica website, because
Right.
the Bank of Jamaica do the floating for them.
Right.
If you go on the Bank of Jamaica website, you see that 3 treasury bills were floated this week, and all of them were oversubscribed.
Which is borrowing.
Yeah, but I mean, borrow the money. Borrow the money. What you do?
So them have a different meaning for borrow.
Then maybe them take the people up for food, or maybe them believe say people don't know how to find these things.
No, but Rasta,
no,
no, that can't be the argument.
But Simon, what else could be the argument? Again, me I tell you, when the minister, the I think we call the public sector borrowing requirement.
Yes.
So you will never be able to collect enough taxes to fund the budget, so you have to borrow. When you run a fiscal deficit, it means you borrow the money.
So that's what the man them are saying. It's a norm to borrow, but we not borrow for fixed road.
The way the money is commingled, you do the money, all of the money come in at one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you get to pay Simon, you have your house for the money where you get not enough. So you say I gotta borrow some money.
Glad you know.
Yeah, right. So you say I gotta borrow some money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when you borrow the money, you put it together with your salary, you do what you need for do. It's just a simple thing as that.
So you're sure it's not a different word?
No, there's
them
no
use?
different. No different. There's no different.
So when the man said we don't borrow no money for fixed road,
It's lying. Because all the money will come from Saudi Arabia and then places are money for fixed road and the water supply and irrigation and all of them something. It's lying.
and it's borrowing.
Yeah, the only money we have a specific purpose for. IMF money are for balance of payment support. That are the only money we have a specific tag for. We have to use for a specific purpose. The other money you can just commingle and do whatever you want to do. Stupidness.
Welcome back, all my listeners and my viewers, all my subscribers. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now. We have with us one of the members of the Jamaica Labour Party Communication Task Force, Marlon Morgan. You heard Ralston a while ago, Marlon. Welcome. Happy New Year, my brethren. All the best for 2025.
Sorry for joining late. Evening, Collin. Didn't quite hear all of the leading just now, but I understand the gist of what they're saying in terms of, support for the country's
budget.
fiscal program.
Quick question. Is the government borrowing to finance the budget?
No, that is something that I'd want to look into some more, because what I do know is that Jamaica has a stock of debt, right? And from time to time, you raise finances in order to retire existing debt and certainly more expensive money. So you try to avail yourself of cheaper money to replace or change out debt that is higher costing. So Jamaica is borrowing, but just to be very clear, right? When we speak about not borrowing or whatever, the gist of that was that Jamaica is not borrowing at unsustainable levels compared to what it was in the past. So the point is, in terms of paying down the debt, what has been ensuing is a strategy of paying down the debt, because by the end of this financial year, we're set to be in the order of 70% debt to GDP. Yes? So the
Right.
thrust of it is that paying down the debt as opposed to getting into unsustainable debt levels. So when reference was made to not borrowing money, it was speaking essentially to not getting into unsustainable levels of debt, because from time to time government will float an instrument, as we have seen in announced, I think it may have been today or yesterday. There are going to be two instruments floated, two government bonds. One will fall due in 2026 or 2027 rather, and the other will fall due sometime thereafter, I think in probably another 20 or so years from now.
And that is actually
So
borrowing.
from time to time you replace debt with, so that is raising funds, that's correct.
But outside of borrowing to do that, Marlon, the budget this year, this financial year, is $1.38 trillion. Isn't it a fact that the government is borrowing about $260 billion to support the budget, for budgetary support we're talking about?
Well, like I said, in relation to fiscal year 24-25, that's something that I would prefer to just double check and satisfy myself on. I think the answer is in the affirmative, but I would prefer the opportunity to double check that matter and satisfy myself on it. Because just to be clear, the gravamen at this point, because I hear Alston and I understand the point of, seeking to split hairs and speaking to embarrass and a kind of gotcha journalism. Nobody is frightened, my friend, for gotcha journalism. So
no, that's not it.
Where Jamaica is coming from, right, is the accumulation and acquisition of unsustainable, reckless, ill-advised, and high-cost debt, meaning borrowing at levels well in excess of what the country is able to afford and what the country is reasonably able to sustain. That is no longer the case, and that is the key takeaway for your viewers, my friend. That's the key takeaway for JLP supporters. That's the key takeaway for PNP supporters. There's a new dynamic in town. It was something
Minister
that commenced,
Morgan
I
also
believe.
came out swinging, saying that unlike...
Hold on, Marlon. Sorry about that. Continue. Go ahead. Continue.
So I'm saying Jamaica used to be in a situation, Collin, where we were reckless in the management of our country's financial affairs in terms of accumulating debt. We are no longer at that point. So I don't need to split hairs with Ralston about whether the government is floating a bond or not.
Explain this statement for me. Explain this statement.
Mr. Golding's party, the Holiness administration is able to undertake extensive road repair projects without borrowing.
The reason the government is able to do this while previous governments, of which Mr. Golding was a part, were unable to do it, is because of how we have managed the economy. We have managed the economy in a way where, for the first time in a very long time, the government has been able to spend money to uplift the country without having to borrow.
Explain that to me, Marlon.
My brother. From time to time, or certainly in the past, when Jamaica had any road work to undertake...
Where you gone? So dark. We're not seeing you. We're not seeing you, Marlon. We're hearing you, but we're not seeing you.
Cool. So I've just effected the fix. What I'm saying, in a time gone by, if Jamaica was ravaged by a hurricane, or if the government of Jamaica devised a road program where it wanted to put down road infrastructure, it would have to do so by going to some financial institution, whether it is, the World Bank, or to float essentially an instrument on the private capital markets to raise funds. That is essentially how Jamaica would have financed the road work that it has to do. We have much more fiscal room at present. So the gist of it is that by virtue of the responsible way in which the economy has been managed and the debt has been paid down, it frees up more money, more fiscal space to allow Jamaica to turn itself now into attending to our local issues, our local problems, much of which have eluded us in yesteryears, and we are now devising more local-based solutions to the local-based problems that we have. For example, the state that disrepairs in our road. So let me just give it a short response, my brother. I am not going to be on this program and say that Jamaica isn't borrowing money. Yes, First and foremost, in relation to this particular financial year 24-25, and in relation to an upcoming supplemental budget that will be coming, I'm going to be using the opportunity or taking the opportunity to satisfy myself as to any borrowing to satisfy the government's fiscal program for this financial year. But separate and apart from that, I want the key understanding. Because I wanted to understand, yes, and the viewers as well, that Jamaica, where we are at present, we are no longer at levels of unsustainable debt accumulation. Our debt, my brother, I can convey that to Ralston Hyman. Our debt here in Jamaica, our stock of debt relative to GDP is coming south as opposed to going north. So the debt stock as a percentage of GDP is
down. That is true.
It's coming down.
That
but
is
it
a fact.
Is not a case that the government does not go into the market and raise funds. So to be technically correct, Jamaica is borrowing. I would want to satisfy myself further as to the financing operations for this financial year, and I would like it to give me the opportunity so to do in terms of just satisfying myself, because I don't speak loosely and I don't seek to mislead people.
Tell me if this statement is true, if this piece of news here is true.
The details. The government of Jamaica borrowed $102.22 billion during the period April to November of this fiscal year. This was $2.15 billion, or 2.2% more than projected for. Some $55 billion of this amount was obtained from the domestic market and $46.49 billion from the external sources.
Is that true?
I'm going to repeat my response a while ago. The answer to the question you're posing to me, Collin, is an emphatic yes.
Thank you.
All right.
That's all. Let's move on.
Three-letter response to your question.
Yes.
But separate and apart from that three-letter response, I want to say this to you. When reference is being made in many quarters to borrowing, the simple distinction and the sharp distinction being drawn here is that in yesteryears, a gentleman that you are particularly familiar with, and you would perhaps know very well, Omar Davies, used to borrow in unsustainable ways, in reckless ways, because he would go to Europe, for example, on a roadshow, raise money on the private capital markets, the international capital markets, which was expensive money. It was not multilateral money. It was expensive money. And then come to report to Parliament and essentially beat him chest, because I suspect Omar Davies suffers from short man syndrome. To beat him chest as a little short man, to say, yes, Jamaica raised this on the international capital markets and we got this money at X%. But the interest rates on those funds were excessive interest rates, and they were part and parcel of why Jamaica was plunged into the unsustainable debt trap and the issues it was plunged into.
Answer this question.
So Ralston can't play gotcha journalism with me. I'm not about that.
We're not playing gotcha journalism. We're talking about facts and truth. And that's what we're talking about tonight.
And that's what I'm here to do.
What was Jamaica's debt in 2016?
Jamaica's debt stock was approaching... Well, first of all, in 2016, I think we were at 130% of debt to GDP.
But give us real money. At 2016, we were at 115% to GDP. 115.
At what?
115%.
Oh, 2016.
2016. Right.
My apologies.
Right.
I was thinking of the debt that would have been handed over to
you're not thinking about Omar Davies too much, man.
No, man.
But even when Omar Davies leave office, even when Omar leave the office 2007, the debt to GDP was 113%.
Yes, and 113% you'd appreciate is
right. But let's come back to the question I asked. How much money was Jamaica owing in 2016?
I think it was closer to 100. The debt to GDP.
Not the debt to GDP. How much money?
20%.
I want to remind you that our debt.
Well, if you have the figure, you can throw the figure. In other words, so let's be clear.
We owed $2 trillion in 2016.
So let's be clear. Debt, Collin, certainly for the purpose of these discussions and for any economic analysis and measure, you don't preoccupy yourself with what is called a nominal stock of debt. because for inflationary reasons, for foreign exchange related reasons, and the fact that you may have depreciation of your local currency, or rather devaluation of your currency, you may have your debt stock in nominal terms. Nominal mean actual money. So whether it's 1 trillion, 2 billion, whatever the nominal amount is, you don't preoccupy yourself when you're doing an analysis with the nominal debt stock.
On this platform, though, Marlon, on this platform,
I see all the numbers there in front of us.
Right. We try our best to simplify things for our listeners. And in 2016, Jamaica was owing $2 trillion. In 2023, we are owing $2.3 trillion. So we're actually owing more in the nominal.
So you're saying nominally we're owing 300 billion more.
More than we owed in 2016.
Exactly. So the point is, and though that is the case, because the numerator, which is the debt, has gone up, you have to focus on the denominator. Because all right, Collin, I want you to walk with me a bit. I know that you have your talking points queued up, you have your questions queued up, but the reason why I'm on programs like these is to bring perspective. I don't intend or expect you to agree with what I'm saying, but I want you to at least understand what I am saying. So I'm going to repeat an element.
And let me just say, all I expect from you, Marlon, is the truth. That's all I expect.
I'm just going to repeat an element. Yeah? So just to be clear, there is the debt in dollar terms, the Jamaican debt, like the debt in any other country.
Yes.
It can be expressed in dollar terms, which is what you refer to as your nominal debt or your nominal debt stock. But also, my friend, and more so, you have the expression of Jamaica's debt in percentage terms, meaning
so it's the gross domestic product as the ratio to debt.
The debt as a percentage of your GDP. That is the more instructive measure. That is the more useful measure, because the idea is that your debt in nominal terms, meaning the debt itself, could go well high, extremely high, certainly relative to what it was under Dr. Phillips, for example, right? However, if your GDP went even considerably higher, you would be in an even much better position, because it is the ratios that you have to focus on. In other words, the ratios may be of such that when you consider the numerator and the denominator, you are much better off, although the nominal debt
not necessarily, Marlon,
has gone up greater. I said you may. It depends on what the two values
are. That's the operative word, may. Because Jamaica's debt to GDP, Jamaica's debt to GDP now is what, about 70%?
Based on what the two values are. So Jamaica's debt to GDP ratio, right?
No.
By the end of this financial year, is programmed to be about 70%. So, so the debt is essentially programmed to be 70% of what our GDP is.
Barbados. What is Barbados' debt to GDP?
I know Barbados had an IMF program the other day. So just to be clear,
they're about 105%.
You'll have to remind me of that figure, because
they're about 105%.
With St. Lucia's ratios.
No, I understand. Fine. But the point I'm trying to make, though, how much we're growing now? What is our growth record now?
And I'm happy you mentioned that.
How we look?
There's no doubt that over the life of this JLP administration, right, one of the signal achievements has been the maintenance, first of all, the achievement and maintenance of what is called macroeconomic stability. It is very important, because these are fundamental and foundational pillars on which an economy stands. You're talking about the strength of your monetary system and the credibility and robustness of your fiscal program. So just to be clear, my brother, just prior to COVID, the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in March thereabout of 2020, Jamaica prior to that had about 15 or so quarters, meaning 15 consecutive quarters of economic growth. Now,
coming from the last PNP administration.
So the question is, yes?
Where are we now?
Just allow me. The question is, were those levels of growth with which we are pleased as a government, or with which Jamaicans as a whole ought to be pleased? The answer is no, because we would ideally want to be growing significantly more than that in terms of 4% growth and 5%
How much were we
8%
growing
growth.
then before COVID? At what percentage?
We were growing. We had all kinds of figures.
What's the highest we got to?
I would have to run the numbers to look at what the average growth may have been.
What the highest we got to? You remember the highest we got to?
I'm not so sure if the highest may have been 2%, but the fact is that we didn't hit what the targeted growth level was, right?
Why?
But the point is that when COVID came, because you had a downturn in tourism, because you had a downturn in agriculture as well, because as you know, we have our farmers, some of them who support the tourist sector. So COVID just created certain displacements in economic output and productivity.
But Marlon, hold on a little bit. Let's talk about.
I'm going to explain. I'm saying all of that because I'm getting to the point of where we are now in terms of what has happened.
I just wanted to brace a little bit and go back to before COVID, because remember there was a big promise of 5% in 4 years. Why would it get?
Because as labor rights, I don't know if it is something with which you may have a difficulty or you and others may have a challenge. As labor rights, we aspire. We essentially challenge ourselves, and I don't want to be uncharitable in saying this, but it's like being ambitious about the country and the interest and the prospects about the country. So
isn't it true that one of the reasons why that growth was projected was that the foundation that you got this economy on was so solid and so well laid that you said, yes, we can grow this by 5% in 4 years?
So let me tell you this, Collin. It would be a reckless, irresponsible, and uncharitable person who would sit on this platform this evening and suggest to you that strides were not made under the Simpson-led administration in terms of the macroeconomics of the country, especially within the context of an IMF program. The sharp departure between our philosophy and views on the management of the country and what happened under Dr. Phillips's watch as finance minister is that not enough creativity and thought was being brought to bear in seeking to put money back in people's pockets and posture towards growth. So in other words, remember by Dr. Phillips, man. So just walk with me a bit. You have posed the question and you have to provide the response.
No, but we want to understand when you speak.
I understand. You want clarity. So just to be clear, right? You were in the throes of an IMF program. It was good to have had something called an EPOC, which was an Economic Program Oversight Committee. Yes? Those things have been so good that they endured. When we came to office, we too had EPOC. And at present, we are building out to what is called a fiscal commission, where you will have a fiscal commissioner, and I believe the people who now chair and head up EPOC will be the oversight entity for the fiscal commission or council that is to come in a few months from now. So just to be clear, there were considerable gains in terms of institutionally, in terms of our legislative framework, from a financial management standpoint, and those things were important. The reason why we had a series of town halls dubbed Prosperity Live, and we tagged our campaign From Poverty to Prosperity, is because we were talking all along, Collin, about what we were missing. What we were missing, yes, is a maintenance of our hands on the wheels, but at the same time bringing creativity, yes, and forethought into different areas of the society with a view to spur growth and with a view to uplift people. So when we formed government in March 2016, my brother, we would have inherited a certain foundation because of the economic program between the period 2012 to call it February 2016. But we realized that it was important to do some critical things. And what did we do? We came with the 1.5, the very 1.5 income tax threshold that the PNP said could not have been done. Now, what one of the things to note as well, because people like Rastanheiman were among those shouting it down. And,
that it couldn't be done.
But the truth is, we were speaking about two
Was it really
things.
Done the way you promised it?
Hold on. We were speaking about two different things. Because what the JLP in opposition when it was campaigning had committed to was for all persons earning 1.5 or less
to pay no income tax.
So just to be clear, the
But-
universe was different. So the universe that we gave an undertaking to was different from the universe of taxpayers that we ended up giving the benefit to.
But Marlon,
Because
hold
the
on.
didn't want
Let
us
me
to
remind
get
you
into
something. Let me remind you something.
a system that was not simplified.
Let me remind you something. When that 1.5 was promised, you were asked, and when I said you, I mean your party.
Yeah, man, that's fine. I'm not splitting
Was
hairs on those
asked
things.
what it would cost Jamaica.
We costed it, right?
And remember, the answer was it would be revenue neutral. That means it wouldn't cost Jamaica anything. Isn't it a fact that 1.5 cost the Jamaican taxpayers about $34 billion?
But walk with me a bit, because I have said what I have said, but I don't know if it has not registered with you. So let me go again. To use an analogy, the 1.5 was similar to the government promising 10 people something, but based on what the IMF indicated, because as you can appreciate, Jamaica was in the throes of an IMF program. The IMF was saying, listen, from a tax administration standpoint, don't make the system cumbersome, yes, by having one rate of taxation from an income tax standpoint applying to one set of people and another rate applying to another set of people. So just retain simplicity and uniformity across the board. So what you had, Collin, was a simple case where what was promised, the undertaking given in February 2016, was scaled up significantly by the time you were to present a budget in April, basically.
Scaled up to where?
I wonder if you understand that.
No,
scaled up in terms of the universe of taxpayers. So you have 10 people who you had catered for or contemplated. So let me go attempt it again. You have 10 people who you were in a contemplate to give something.
Mm-hmm.
But based on certain discussions with IMF and the prescription that they pointed to, you had to move from that 10 to 20 people. You understand that concept?
I understand what you said, but I don't know of that happening. You promised that anybody who was earning 1.5 million and below.
You don't understand. All right, so Collin, so just put this question to you then. Do you appreciate that there were persons in Jamaica who were earning 1.5 or less, and then there were others who were earning in excess of 1.5? Do you understand
yes,
that?
Yes.
Cool. So that is the two different universe. So let's walk with me again.
Mm-hmm.
The people them who wholeness did promise to give 1.5 and the 18,000 up to $18,000 per month.
Back on their pay.
Whatever it was. Yes?
Yeah.
The idea is that set of people were those persons earning 1.5 or less. Right. However, because the IMF indicated and insisted that you can't do it like that, you have to apply to everybody. What the government did was to not just give it to those 10 people who were at 1.5 or less. It gave it to the 20 people who were all of the people on the PAYE.
So hold on. Let me understand what you're saying to us.
Yeah.
That you are just planned to give it to the people who are earning less than 1.5.
Because that was the undertaking.
But what IMF said to you, hold on. What IMF said to you is that everybody will pay PAYE.
And I've explained to you why.
The first 1.5 should not be taxed.
And I'm going to. Is
that what you're explaining to us?
I'm going to try. I'm going to explain it again.
So tell me how it costs with $34 billion, because what you all said, hold on, what you all said it wouldn't cost us. And remember, you didn't do it one time, Remember, you did it in phases.
So walk with me. So we understand the question, and we understand the narrative, and we understand the talking points. So just to be clear, remember, you have your talking points, and me have my talking points.
No, man, I have no talking points. I'm just asking questions.
Cool. So cool. So let's go again. In the lead up to the February 2016 election, Collin, Zin, we came up with this innovative approach to say, listen, what the Jamaican economy was lacking, my brother, was stimulation. So let me explain to you what I mean. When you put money back in our people in pocket, the people them have more disposable income. The people them now don't necessarily just take the more disposable income and sit down on it. They are likely to consume because they were struggling and suffering under the 60 billion of taxes levied.
And we get all of that, Marlon. We get all of that. The party
I'm building up to my point. But when I say, me I gonna take 40 seconds to make my point, my G. You have to make me sit down and write my exam. You are the invigilator, you just sit down and watch me write the exam. So watch me now. So watch me now, see? Because we wanted to spur economic activity in the country, boost aggregate demand, and by virtue of putting money back in people's pocket. Because when you do that, my brother, it will turn around into more taxes for government, and government can do more for the people of Jamaica in terms of build more clinic, build more farm roads, all of the wonderful things you have seen from time to time. So just to be clear, we promised 10 people, because 10 people were earning in Jamaica. In all of Jamaica, let us say 10 people were earning 1.5 or less. But there are other people in Jamaica, you understand? So
Yes.
some of the other people were in excess of 1.5 million per annum. Some did earn 3 million, some earned 5 million, and some like Collin, Bell, and Ralston Hyman did earn 7 million. Zin? So them the people know, because the IMF said to you, you can't have a two-tiered tax administration system for your PAYE. You have to have it uniform across the board. So
Right.
what you promised when you were in opposition and campaign done ended up being different from what you had to deliver.
So
the
you'll admit
monetary
to me
amount
that what
stays.
you promised was
So
not
just to be
delivered the
clear.
way you promised it.
But there's no splitting of hairs on that, because what we did
But
was
also
actually
remember, you know,
2
that
times
there were
better.
people
But
also
Colin,
who were below the tax threshold, who weren't paying any income tax.
So Colin, apparently you're not understanding.
I am
that
understanding you clearly,
what we
Marlon.
promised in 2016 was not what we delivered, because what we delivered was in fact considerably more, or some people would say more than what we did
And
promise.
end up costing the Jamaican people when you say what you were promising would not cost us anything. Remember that.
But the
Don't
point
forget
is,
that part.
the net benefit of that, and just to be clear, even though there were taxes that had to be applied, yes, they were revenue neutral, my brother, in that the government did not end up with a net increase in taxes. I see a step back, so let me explain what that means. To move the income tax threshold at the time in phases, ultimately up to 1.5, because we started out with 1 million initially, and then the subsequent year it moved to 1.5. But to move the income tax threshold, Colin, from the 500 and something thousand it was at under the PNP to the 1 million it became under the JLP in April 2016, right? It costed us $37 billion.
Exactly.
Right? As people like Ralston Hyman were saying. However, watch me now.
But hold on now, Marlon. You have to give Ralston him kudos, because he told you when you were saying.
But we are also did that talk about two separate something.
But
I am understanding
hold on,
you, you know,
but it end up
you not understanding none at all, you know.
No, but Marlon, it end up come round, come cost you exactly what Ralston said it would cost.
I got to try again still. Let me go again. The JLP, under the then opposition leader Andrew Holness, did not contemplate to raise the income tax threshold to 1.5 for everybody. You understand that now?
I understand that clearly.
All right, so watch me again, therefore. Because the IMF, by the time we took office, the IMF indicated to us that you need a simplified PAYE
system. It can't work like how Uno did that say it
work. The staggered system where we did a contemplate
can't work.
Keep. You understand?
Right. The IMF was not allowing that.
So because that Nana keep and couldn't keep again, Zin,
right.
It means that there would have been a greater tax impact in terms of what the government would have been giving up. So there's a greater cost.
Because you couldn't back off fully upon the promise where you make. So you'd have to go with where the IMF said to go with.
Because guess what? Only an irresponsible set of people would have walked back an undertaking they gave. And just to be clear, we don't make promises in the JP, my brother. We give firm undertakings. When we say we are going to do something, and that we mean, and that
what about the 100 days time limit? The leader promised us time limit for leadership within the first 100 days.
Across issues. They say that
no, but when you make a statement like that, that what about the promise?
Remember, so we're gonna come to other things, you know.
Yes,
just
man.
To be clear, because remember we're on the taxes, and we're gonna move from this tax issue now to the date and tax issue. But just to be clear, me I do paper one now. Me I sit down and write. Remember, you had the invigilator, you put the question.
And I may set the exam, you know.
All right, cool. I may write the exams in. But the issue where you were raised a while ago, but first 100 days. That is essentially paper 2. But I will give you a short answer to that. Yes, there were things that were indicated in terms of an indication given for our first 100 days, that having regard to your program of work having formed government and the imperatives that you had to attune your mind to, those things you did not get around to do them. So the idea is that you did not do them. So I can't sit on this program and say to you, say, today or Thursday, when today or Tuesday. I don't operate like that, my G.
No, but you brought that, because you said whatever on a promise.
Yeah, man.
We deliver. And that was one that was promised that never even look at.
With the income tax threshold, we over-delivered. So just to be clear, because you were to apply the 1.5 across the board, what that meant is that the revenue that you had anticipated and you had identified the sources of that revenue while you were in opposition, you became government and the money became increasingly more because you had to do the tax break to everybody in terms of the income tax.
So let's both agree.
So that is why you had to go the route now of taxes.
So let's both agree, Marlon.
So before we come to the both agree, I want to say this. Mm-hmm. To increase the income tax threshold, from 500,000 to the 1 million Jamaican dollars, it meant that the government would be giving up some revenue. You understand that? So because the government was giving up certain revenue, the government had to make up that revenue through certain tax measures.
Exactly.
But because the tax measures given up, I want you to understand this concept, so don't leave me out. What you gave up compared to what you received ended up being the same amount. So that's why you refer to that as revenue neutral. So you gave up $1. Watch me before you come in. That's what you understand before you come in. You gave up 5 mangoes, but you get back 5 mangoes. So you ended up in what is called a revenue neutral position.
And I am suggesting that, no, you didn't get it back. Because that $34 billion worth of taxes, the people who were earning less than $550,000 a year who weren't paying any taxes ended up start paying taxes on those. They start feeling that pain. So let's move on. What I'll
take 30 seconds to say to you, because you say we didn't make back the money or didn't get it back. And I say to you that government revenues actually overperformed and have been overperforming throughout the life of this administration, I believe with the exception of this year, due to burial and whatnot. So just to be clear, Meji, because the very point we were making in terms of economic management and economic stimulation, if you put money in people's pocket, you end up making more money. If you reduce the cost of people coming into the dance, enough people will come into the dance and they will buy Heineken, Red Stripe, because some of the people in the dance are labor right, some of them are PNP, so the PNP will drink stout and Heineken and Red Stripe, and the labor right will drink them Heineken and them stout, and everybody have a grand time, and you as the promoter will sell even more because you reduce the price of admission into your session. So the point is, having increased the income tax threshold and put more money back in people's pocket, it enabled us to collect even more in terms of tax revenue because more GCT collect and all these things.
I want to suggest to you that the more taxes that you are collecting was done because of the tax reforms that was done under the Portia Simpson-led administration by Peter Phillips.
Tax reforms had commenced from the Bruce Golding Audley Shaw period. Central Treasury Management System work had started with the Central Treasury Management System to just simplify Jamaica's tax code to consolidate our treasury, because
I want to say to you, Marlon,
was treasury all over the place. So we now have a Central Treasury Management system.
I want to say to you, you failed on the 5 in 4 because a lot of things going in, you guys never understand it.
Let me make a comment on that.
Hold on, let me finish. Yeah. As you just explained what happened with the 1.5. The 1.5 that you had planned couldn't work the way you planned it. And Ralston Hyman told you that it was going to cost $38 million. You came into government. The IMF said, no, it can't work like you want it to work. You have to have a simpler tax system, go right across the board. And it cost the $38 billion.
We're not rewriting history here. We're not denying any of that, because the fundamental point I'm making, just before we move on to your next question, the fundamental point I'm making, yes, is that the critique that people like Dr. Phillips as finance minister at the time and Ralston Hyman and other detractors, the criticism that they leveled at us was a criticism of something other than what we were promising. So just to be clear, What we were proposing to do if we were to form government in 2016 was something different from what Dr. Phillips and Ralston Hyman were criticizing or critiquing.
But it ended up cost what they said it would cost.
Indeed, because of the IMF's insistence.
Let's because they got the IMF deal, so obviously they knew what was in the deal. They knew a lot of what was in the deal. Wouldn't you agree?
But we're not. So the idea is that there were certain headline points from an IMF reform standpoint that we simply had to persist with. One of them simply being simplifying Jamaica's tax code, make it efficient, make it simpler, so that you can better serve the Jamaican people.
Marlon, I see a run out. Lawrence Rowe has been withdrawn. Isn't it that something that the GLP should be happy about? Why don't you run out cussing about it?
So let's be clear. The GLP would have spent the Christmas holiday period largely with people's respective families, minding its own business. The Prime Minister would have presented a Christmas Day address and a New Year's Day address. I reference this period, Collin, because based on Lawrence Rowe's revelations and the allegations he makes, yes, follow me carefully, based on the allegations Lawrence Rowe sets out, it is clear that while the rest of us were enjoying our sorrel, our gungo rice and peas, for those who eat pork, I don't eat that. Did I enjoy a slice of ham? Me, I enjoy my curry goat and my baked chicken and all.
So you don't eat the thing?
No, not my settings that much. I grew up as a 7-day Adventist.
Okay,
but anyway, just to be clear, see?
Yeah.
During that festive period of time.
Hold on, Marlon. Can I take one call? Hold on.
Yeah, man, do your thing, man.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening. Hi, Collin, how you do?
Obi, Wagwan.
Me there, my brother. I hear my good friend Marlon.
Marlon, you hear the caller?
Yeah, man, I hearing Obi, man. Greetings, Obi.
Marlon Wagwan, man, I hear you trying hard to make a case, but I have one simple question.
Yeah.
You're talking about the way that the then opposition proposed that they would basically implement the 1.5. And you alluded to the fact that the IMF said, listen, they want a more, and this is my word, a more equitable situation and something that is simplified across the board.
Yep.
Hence, and I think Raleigh had alluded to all of that all along. And all the people, John Jackson, Damien King and everybody was against Ralston. The then opposition was saying that it would cost the people of Jamaica not one red cent. It would be revenue neutral.
Yes.
Even when the IMF said it, because the IMF would have said that before the government was installed by the Jamaica Labour Party, based on the proposal.
No, the IMF didn't comment. The IMF doesn't do those kinds of things.
Just allow me, let me finish. Just allow me to finish.
Go ahead.
But still, what I want to ask you, had it been implemented just with that amount of people that the Labour Party said at the time that they would give, how much would it cost? Because indeed, even that, it would not be revenue neutral. You would have to basically prorate the number that would have gotten it. So how much would it cost?
So just to be clear, remember when we came up with a proposal, Zin, we had costed it, I think it may have been in the order of 16 billion J$. Zin, walk with me carefully. We had identified sources of revenue that would not have required increased taxes to finance it. That is why we indicated, and that's why we campaigned on. So just to be clear, we made mention that we are proposing to abolish income tax for persons who earn 1.5 million per annum or less. We costed it. It was about 16 billion. Don't hold me to the figures. I mean, this is almost a decade ago. So, but the key thing in it is that we had identified which power we were not getting money from. Yes? So just to be clear now, because when we took office now, and you mentioned something about Ralston and all that, so just to be clear, OB, yes?
You have a kind of factor that come across in a little bit disparaging way, Marlon. Which part you get it from?
Boy.
In Patois?
Let me again revisit it. Let me revisit that then, because I don't want to come across condescending or disparaging. It's just
Yeah,
a way of
man.
trying to break down or
You have to be
explain
careful,
something.
Marlon. And this thing,
Yeah.
when you believe that you talk and people can understand you, it not come across pleasant.
All right, cool. So let me go again then.
Yeah, my brethren,
Duly
what does I
noted.
tell you?
Yeah, man, duly noted. Cool. So just to reiterate the point, because OB said something earlier, touch on something that you had mentioned earlier too, Collin. The basic understanding of what took place in 2016, early 2016, is that what the then opposition had proposed to do ended up being different from what it actually delivered.
Right.
Yeah. And yes, commentators like Ralston were correct in terms of the amount it would have cost, because what the figure we placed on the table was placed on the table because of what we were proposing to do. But Ralston and others were costing it in a different way. But when we came to office, the IMF insisted that you cannot have a two-tiered PAYE system. You cannot have because it would be cumbersome. It would take us back to yesteryears as opposed to taking us into the future, where you have a more simplified tax system and you are able to reliably collect taxes and efficiently collect taxes. Zin? But just to come back to the point you're making.
Hold on, Marlon. You said.
I want to leave because I want to listen, but I want to just get this in.
Hold on, Obi, hold a sec. Marlon, you said that when the party promised the 1.5, you had a cost of 16 billion.
Yes.
And you know where that 16 billion was coming from. And I remember some of the areas were named as well.
Yeah, but so just to be clear, Colin, remember we were in the throes of a general election campaign, you know. Yeah, and the proposal came in for considerable scrutiny, and we would have known that it was going to come in for considerable scrutiny. So we were at pains to identify the sources that we were going to
right. And I remember the party also pointed out some of the areas where the money was going to come from. But did you find that $16 billion? Because you were told that money wasn't there either.
No, man. Well, put it this way.
Because that's the
government would have found some of the money.
16 billion.
So just to be clear, Colin, I mean, I could look back on the budget presentation, right? You'd have to look back on it to see what the breakdown was. But in terms of the key takeaway, the idea is that to increase the income tax threshold back in April of 2016, it ended up costing a certain amount. It was considerably higher than what the government, the JLP had promised or given an undertaking to do. And so you had to find existing money in addition to new money, which was by way of additional taxes. However, the additional taxes that were levied did not outstrip what the government gave up. So again, I'm just reiterating, that is why you call the initiative or the measure a revenue neutral scenario.
I am not in agreement.
Because it was not our intention to put more taxes on the back of the Jamaican people.
But you eventually did.
No, man, I'm not splitting hairs on that.
Right.
Because we came with the taxes because we were putting money back in the people's pocket.
Let Obi just finish up and go on.
Just before I go, I just want to, and I didn't want to ask a question. I just want to leave my brethren Marlon and let you and him talk. But before I go, it would be remiss of me not to continue saying on this platform that Marlon Morgan is simply the hardest working surrogate for the JLP administration. I think they're doing them a disservice.
And he must be named senator. We're calling it here tonight that he's going to be filling one of the 2 Senate seats that is available.
Absolutely.
Are we correct on that, Marlon?
Hold on, Collin. I don't expect it to stop there. I expect him to be kicked up the value chain at least as a junior minister. And I'm saying it sincerely. We all watch and follow Marlon when the Jamaica Labour Party was in opposition. And we saw people who did not do anything at all like a Marlon Morgan. And now they are not junior ministers, but senior minister. Mr. Prime Minister, we are batting and begging when hard work is done. And I would do this for anybody in the PNP. Collin, you're one of the hardest working surrogate for the PNP, and I expect them to treat you accordingly.
We're talking about
So-
Marlon Morgan right now, next senator. Thank you, Obi.
I mean,
All right,
this
all
thing
the
is
best,
not
all the
easy.
best, Marlon.
It's-
Thank you.
yeah, man.
Monday.
Greetings, Obi.
Respect.
See you on Monday. See you on Monday. I mean,
Yeah,
the
Marlon.
idea is that, you know, the selectors have to do their job and we do our job, as we're doing now in terms of having a dialogue that is
Yes.
respectful, sober, and it just helps to bring, you know, perspectives to the listeners.
Let's go to the reason why you were out there Monday morning.
Oh, yes.
Monday morning.
Yeah, because I was
But-
giving a bit of context.
Yeah,
Because I was saying,
why
over
you
the
take up that?
festive period, obviously some machinations were ensuing in the ranks of the PNP, certainly where Central Kingston was concerned, as is alleged by Lawrence Rowe. Based on some revelations made on Nationwide today, Lawrence Rowe is standing by the allegations that are contained in his social media post at the weekend, where he sets out a chronology of events, which, among other things, contains an allegation that in order to essentially step away from Central Kingston and go, you know, not create a fuss and facilitate the political efforts of his successor. They didn't name the successor at the time, but to facilitate the efforts of his successor, these things would be in order for him. A board appointment to a housing agency, $15 million, and a Senate appointment. So those
That's
are
what.
allegations by Lawrence, and he stands by them. He says he has his receipts, whether it is video recordings or other forms of source documents in terms of evidentiary material.
But the question
Yeah,
I
yes, sir.
ask is why were you out on it?
Oh, yeah, man, just excellent point.
That
So-
become
so
a
let me-
GLP
yeah.
issue.
Excellent point. So just to focus the listeners' attention, the viewers' attention, there's a concept called state capture. So just to be clear, Mark Golding is the opposition leader. The PNP is the parliamentary opposition. That means that they are auditioning Collin to form government. They are a prospective government, right?
Yes.
Persons like yourself will say the PNP will form government, right? Persons like yourself will say that.
Of course.
However, just to be clear, to the extent that Lawrence Rowe is going to allege that an undertaking has been given to him to make him a senator, if the PNP were to form government and to appoint him to the board of this public body or that public body were the PNP to form government, it becomes a matter that is concerning and ought to be disturbing to all Jamaicans. Because just before you come in, my brother, what that means is that there's a degree of horse trading that is going on, and it is being done on a basis of opportunism and expediency rather than allowing appointments to ensue on the basis of merit. So in other words, if a prime minister has 13 recommendations to make, because that's what happens in Jamaica, the prime minister makes 13 recommendations and the opposition leader makes 8. It is the governor general that appoints as senators in, but the prime minister make recommendations and the opposition leader makes recommendations. The recommendations of these people should be on the basis of merit. In other words, just like yourself and Obi were saying a while ago, you look on this youth here, him name Marlon Morgan, him that on our side, him a bad for the other side. However, just based on how he assesses phenomena in the Jamaican body politic, how him reason and how he has been resilient and hardworking and diligent, we feel that this youth would add value to our discourse at the level of the review chamber, because that's what the Senate is. It is the cerebral chamber, it is the review chamber, and it is the chamber that is expected to take lawmaking very seriously and serve as a check and balance to the lower house and not as a rubber stamp. So appointments, Maji, are to be made on the basis of merit and qualification.
So why you think an appointment? And I'm not saying what Lawrence said was promised to him. Hold on, Collin. I'm not saying what Lawrence said was promised to him was promised. But what...
we're just going by his allegation.
Right,
by
his allegation.
We weren't there, so we
but
can't say or confirm one way or another.
But hold on.
Mm-hmm.
If the party leader believes that Lawrence Rowe can't win the seat, because politics is the biggest team sport in Marlon. It's a team sport, and it's the biggest team sport in the world.
True.
And
Kind of
and the
frustrating.
fact is, for a political party to form government, you have to win the election. So if the party sees that Lawrence you have talent, as the party leader says in his letter, that Lawrence you have talent, and if you work with us, you will be a part. You will be able to. We'll find place for your talent in a PNP administration. What is wrong with that?
So let me tell you what is wrong. Because I just made a point a while ago that there was a degree of horse trading taking place
by Lawrence Rowe's
prioritizing
allegation. Look at
based
the
on
party leader's
remember,
letter. You have a letter from the party leader.
But I soon come to the letter, Collin. So just to be clear, right? I referenced and characterized the thing as horse trading. And what is disturbing is that it is in furtherance of political expediency, not a merit-based system that you're seeking to promote in the country. But
did JLP ever do anything like that?
Let me come to the letter now. Let me come to the letter. Right? It may have, and if it had, I would pour condemnation on it in the same way as I'm sitting on the program this evening and expressing regret at what is alleged. It's not confirmed.
Why was Marsha Smith? Why Marsha Smith resign as member of parliament?
Remember, I'm not operating in Marsha's head. You would have to put that question to Marsha.
But she was promised. Listen, Marlon, listen to this.
But before we listen to that,
Minister Matthew Samuda will replace Marsha in Northeast St. Anne as the party's candidate. And on Monday last, he tendered his resignation from the Senate and as a minister to make himself available. And at a later stage, I will announce a new appointment for Marsha, who has excellent skills and experience in industrial relations matters.
Talk to me.
Excellent question. So, Collin, the Prime Minister has spoke to Marsha Smith, an individual who served with some distinction as a state minister. Her stewardship as an MP was deemed to be wanting. I didn't have proximity to her. The people in Northeast St. Anne did, and they were not particularly pleased and delighted. However, Marsha's merit and capacity and experience and skill sets, as the Prime Minister said there, does not preclude her from being considered essentially in terms of other areas of government service. So what the Prime Minister said a while ago is not in furtherance of a hush money scandal when you consider Lawrence Rowe's thing. Right, so you have to understand the points of departure. You know, I put it to you earlier that the alleged cushions to Lawrence Rowe, the state, the Senate appointment, the $15 million, and the public body board, that essential basket of cushion to Lawrence Rowe was in furtherance for his corporation.
And that's what Lawrence Rowe said.
That's what Lawrence alleged. I've said it about 4 times.
Right.
So
and therefore, Marlon,
on the same page.
And therefore,
but before you move from that,
we could have looked at Marsha the same way because the Prime Minister made sure in the press briefing announced that Marsha will be taken care of. Marsha was asked to resign, in my view, as a member of parliament, not as a candidate.
Collin, you are getting into the realm of the speculative, which I think is unreasonable.
Within 1 year of a general election, she was asked to step aside. She stepped aside, sorry. Let me not say she was asked. She stepped aside within 1 year of a general election, and within 24 hours of her resignation, a by-election was called. And in the Prime Minister's statement that I just played, said that in short order, Marsha will be put somewhere.
So Collin, let's be clear now, right? Marsha resigned as Member of Parliament Northeast St. Anne. Marsha has not indicated that she was either jettisoned or coerced to resign or anything of that
That's
nature.
the difference, Marlon.
Yes? So let us come back to the
earlier,
point here.
As I said earlier, politics is the biggest team sport. Obviously, Marsha is a team player, and it look like
because you raise an understandable matter, especially as someone from the other side, because what you're doing now is speculating as to the circumstances that may have preceded or occasioned Marsha's exit and so on.
Yes, I'm speculating
as Member of Parliament, but that is in the realm of the speculative. In terms of the Lawrence Rowe matter, and just to bring that matter back into sharp focus. We have not heard from the opposition leadership outside of describing the allegations as spurious. But we have heard from Lawrence. He says he stand by them. Indeed, he says he has his receipts. And I would suggest to the leadership of the opposition would be advised to not push Lawrence Rowe further. But I want to come back to
and I am sure the leadership of the People's National Party,
I want to come to
not really seeking advice on this. They know where
all
they're
right, so yeah, man. I mean, and it would be inappropriate of me and out of my league to purport to be an advisor.
Take back your advice
to the parliamentary opposition. So no, but I want to come to a point I was going to make in terms of the letter. In the correspondence of January 10th to Lawrence Rowe, Mark Golding did something. The opposition leader Mark Golding did something that is very curious, and it is very eyebrow raising.
Don't lose your thought, Marlon. Let me take a one call from you. They've been calling. Let me take a one call. Welcome to the Collin Bell Show, 804-7072. Go ahead.
Good night, Mr. Bell.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Morgan, are you hearing us?
You hearing the caller, Mr. Morgan?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Mr. Morgan.
Yes, Chief.
You remember when Mr. Dane Smith was taken over from his father?
Yeah, man, I remember very well.
And then came Nigel Clark. Hold on, man. And then Nigel Clark came in, Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir.
Get a government contract for $2.5 billion.
Yep. No. Just to be clear. So caller, because I heard somebody earlier on another program with that same matter. I heard my good friend Andre Stevens with the same allegation last night. So let us not conflate separate things, caller. This so-called $2 billion contract that Dwayne Smith has in terms of catering services at KPH, I think it is, that is in recent months. Nigel Clark would have served as member of parliament for at least 5 years. This was 2018. So just to be clear, my brother.
No.
When Dwayne got that contract? Marlon, when did Dwayne get that contract?
That was within the last 8 or so months.
In the last 8 or so months?
Yeah.
Oh.
At least that's
yes.
So the caller and other persons with the talking point, they are suggesting that there was a quid pro quo.
Hold on, Marlon. What is the caller?
He got it when Mr. Clark was seeking to get the seat. Mr. Clark was not MP yet.
So hold on. Marlon is saying that he got the contract about 8 months ago. Are you saying it was before that?
8 months ago?
No. The caller is conflating something with August. In other words, because, all right, let's explain to you, caller.
No. Marlon.
Yes, caller.
When Dwayne Smith got the contract for the catering contract for Southern.
I'm saying I don't know the date specifically in my head, so I'm giving you a ballpark, brother. I'm giving you a ballpark, Maji, and I'm giving it to you because
you said it's about 8 months ago.
When that matter came up, Andre Stevens on his show, yes, you know him have a nightly show, he created a major issue of this thing. So I definitely recall this thing coming to the fore.
Well, tell you what, Marlon.
It's within the last 8 months. I'm putting it at that, my brother.
Hold on. This is the digital age, you know. So I'm asking, I have some researchers on the chat room. I'm asking somebody to go.
Next question.
Go on. Hold on, caller. Just hold on.
So the KPH so-called $2 billion
contract. Research.
Let's make somebody bring it up quickly.
Make a research and find out when Dwayne Smith got the contract to provide catering services for the KPH. Go ahead with the next question, caller.
Miss Marsha Smith, who elect her to Parliament?
The people of
Northeast Sentan.
Okay.
Hold on for me, caller.
So the Prime Minister.
Hold on. 804-7072. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Bell, how are you?
I'm fine,
Mr. Morgan, how are you?
Yeah, good evening, Carla.
Mr. Morgan is still there?
Yeah, man. Mr. Morgan is hearing you.
Happy New Year. Collin, I admire you and Mr. Morgan. How you guys can come together. And you said politics is a team sport.
Are the biggest
And
team sports.
And that's the way we can agree. Well, I'm not a supporter of Mr. Morgan, but I'm one who always listened to Mr. Morgan when he was with Cliff Hughes, and I still listen to him. But since Mr. Morgan going to politics now, Mr. Morgan spinning a different tune.
You have a question for Mr. Morgan? Go ahead with the question.
Mr. Morgan, no country can run without tax. So I think that it's time that we put on 3 or 4% on certain food items like importing what do you call it, lamb chops.
Like red peas and stuff.
It's not gonna. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
man. He's hearing you. Go ahead.
I think this is Mac. I think this is a call of Mac.
And
sound like him.
And certain food items like lamb chops. If we imported lamb, the poor is not going to affect the poor. It's not going to affect the people in poverty, the minimum wage people. It's going to, the rich people is going to pay for that.
So I want to explain this aspect.
Make him just finish, because I'm going to just allow him to ask one question and go.
Hello?
Yes, finish up, Mark.
Still with him, Mark. We're still with him.
So let's put on 3% and certain high-end big food items.
I prefer for him not to go yet, though, Collin.
All right.
So I've heard him, Mark. So I'm just going to respond to you by saying this now. You are very correct in saying, just like how Siaga did say some years ago, it takes cash to care. You are very correct in saying taxes are very important in running a country. It is the taxes that allow us to put medicine in the hospitals, fuel in the police car, fix roads, provide nutrition support to children while they're learning and so on. Taxes do that. Taxes pay public sector workers. However, when you are thinking of taxation, you have to think it through so that you do not end up doing a damage where you intended to do good. So what we're saying simply, and the JLP would have heard Dayton Campbell last week, and our response is a simple one. If you go the route of imposing a tax on imported food items, the people who import food items, Mark, just like Peter Bunting and Mark Golding, through a company called Rerum Trading, right? Those people, those importers will not, Peter Bunting and Mark Golding will not absorb the cost of importation in the items they bring in, and Omar Newell is the managing director of that entity. What Omar Newell is going to do the moment the taxes go up is pass it on to people like myself and Collin Bell. I think you are in the United States,
but
Marlon,
mention some of the people in the parliament who are also
James Roberts, man. So
man, so not just call Mark Golding and Omar Newell. Call the people who are sitting in the government.
Those are the people. But Mark Golding is sitting there now, Tommy G. So
man, but not left out for your side.
But just to be clear, the people who are raising an issue about this are essentially being hypocritical, in my view, because they are suggesting that this tax, this imported food item, the food bill is going up, which we understand, and I want to see more domestic production. We all want to see the same destination, yes? But how we get there is where But
let me say this to you though, Marlon. I had Dayton on this program Saturday morning, and Dayton made it clear that there's no intention to put on any new tax on imported food. What he's going to do is to take some of the money from the existing taxes that are on imported food.
That's not what they said though.
No, hold on.
Well, you see, I am from a place, Collin, where it is said.
Something was said, and he admitted on this program that he said it clumsily. And what really the facts are is that they are going to take money from the existing tax and stamp duties that are on those imported.
We hear that, but I'll say this to you and to Mark.
Hey, Morgan. Mr. Morgan, can you hear me?
Yeah, man, we're hearing you, Mark.
Mr. Morgan, this is one thing what we're going to learn from. I'm from Jamaica, but I live here in Florida. This is one thing I learned from what Dayton Campbell said.
Yeah.
Never you as a spokesperson. You remember what Michael Manley did with Claude Robinson? That's what he was the economics minister, whatever, right? When he went out and make a statement when
Claude Clark's uncle.
Claude Clark.
Yeah.
Claude Clark. What must be said? This must be a teachable moment. And Morgan will tell you. Morgan can't go to make certain statement, and she will fire him up, call him and say, what are you doing? So what Dayton Campbell did He was wrong. You must discuss it with the party first before you make that statement.
So the question here, Mark, is...
I agree with it. I agree with it instead. Well,
Mark, I could just ask for pause for 5 seconds. Do you think that something like a tax measure is something that Dayton would not have had a prior discussion at the level of the shadow cabinet or with the leadership of the party on? Just like we saw with Damien Crawford.
Marlon, I have to repeat what Dayton said. Dayton walked back that argument.
Collin, I don't like to speculate. But what I am now saying, we cannot have members of parliament who sit in parliament who get import license. I have a nephew now, wants the import license. And for him to get the import license, him give up because I'm have to pull teeth. So, Morgan, I respect you. Regardless of the political side.
Is James Roberts the only one on your side who are involved in importation?
I hear some other names in a parish that you are very familiar with. I don't know whether it goes or not, because I don't necessarily preoccupy myself with coming on Collin Bell's show, Canada Brand's show, Cliff Hughes' show, and so on. I don't necessarily preoccupy myself with who is bringing in red peas.
But you think it's right for sitting members of parliament, especially on government benches, people in the cabinet, to be involved in the importation of food?
Well, Collin, let me say this.
Hold on, Mark.
You raised a good question. We live in a free market economy, which is why two opportunistic people, Peter Bunting and Mark Golding, who are very opportunistic people, they are businessmen who have largesse. They have capital in their pockets, and so they will scan Jamaica and seek out opportunities and then make their move, because such is the nature of our free market economy. Is it something that I am gung-ho about in terms of Jamaica's food import bill? No, but I understand that because there are deficits in Jamaica's production, it gives rise and gives room for people who are creative in terms of satisfying a need in the free market economy to have a business that they bring in things.
But what you say to people like me who believe... Hold on, Marlon. What you say to people like me who believe that because of some of these people who are involved in the import, agriculture is underfunded. To agriculture now is at a place that agriculture in Jamaica is down by 12.5%.
We can say that off the top of our head, but the empirical data doesn't bear that out. But just before
empirical data says agricultural produce is down 12.5%.
You said underfunded. Yes. Production incentives are more now than they have ever been. You said underfunded. So let's come back to the point I'm making. In terms of imports, right? You have to appreciate that some of the things that Jamaica imports are things that are not being produced here. For example, wheat flour, and of course, rice, for example. You see the point? Yeah. So, and I believe Market G then bring in rice as well. So the idea is that these guys have capital in their pocket, which is why people like Collin and myself want to aspire to working hard, not thieving, have capital in our pocket too, so as when we see an economic opportunity, particularly on the production side.
But you know the difference with Market G and that, Marlon.
But hold on, I don't want to be in the business of buying and
Market G do it before him coming to politics.
I don't want to be in the business of just buying and saying, no, man, this entity was incorporated in October 2019, my brother. Go and check the records. So just to be clear.
Well, I have to check that.
But just to be clear, Zin, I ultimately want to get into agribusiness and agro-processing because it will help us on our production side, and it will all go well for Jamaica because it will help with Jamaica's food security. I am not aspiring to be a mere importer and distributor in the country. The idea is to boost, to help, to add value, and help to add to Jamaica's productive base in the country. So,
let me take our next.
So what I'm saying is that importers will do these things because the free market economy is one in which we operate, and the opportunity exists because Jamaica's local production doesn't satisfy the demand that we have for food items.
Let me take our next question from you from the phone line. Good night, caller. Welcome to the Collin Bell Show.
Good night, Mr. Collin. Big up the program and big up the host, the guest. So I have a rhetorical question. This is just a point I note. So the situation with Mr. Lawrence, everybody is speculating on it, but as soon as you speculate about the other side in terms of the lady in Northeast Center. We don't want to speculate. I find that very
excellent question, caller. You're listening to caller. I'm just responding by saying this. You have touched on an excellent issue because I described it as speculation because we have not heard from Marsha that she was pushed out in the way we have heard from this gentleman, Lawrence Rowe. If we had heard from Marsha now, it would not have been speculation. It would have been a case of Marsha's allegation against whatever Andrew Holness would say. You see the point I'm making? Lawrence Rowe, the difference here now is that Lawrence Rowe has made some very serious and damning allegations. And to come back to the January 10 letter for you, Collin, the idea is this. Mark Golding indicated in that letter to Lawrence Rowe, which is surprising that Mark Golding is a lawyer because he ought to know better. He wrote a letter that he signed, where he's saying to Lawrence Rowe that the Integrity Commission of the PNP did not approve him to run as a candidate. But he, Mark Golding, went beyond that and vetoed that decision essentially and allowed him to run. And Lawrence has now come to prove the Integrity Commission of the PNP true by virtue of his misconduct, allegedly misconduct, because he's alleged to have vandalized.
My point is that you are welcoming speculating on that issue, which you don't know about.
But I'm saying this is not in the realm of speculation, caller. Because Lawrence Rowe has asserted these things.
What Marlon is saying, and he's right, because Lawrence Rowe made some accusations.
He asserted something.
He put some statements out there. And whatever people are saying,
receipts,
right? Whatever people are saying is based on what Lawrence Rowe put out there. Also, Marlon, I want to put it out there that I haven't heard from the party leader yet that this letter was really done by him. Not sure.
No, man, it's over his signature. It's a January 10 letter over his signature.
Not saying it's not, but I'm just saying.
That's fine.
Right.
I didn't want to make that the point, though. I didn't want to believe about that. The second thing is this. You said that, Mr. Dayton Campbell said some things, and when a man tell you who you are, you're supposed to believe him. Well, based on the Prime Minister's actions of promising a certain amount of things within 100 days and him not fulfilling that promise, should we believe that he's a liar?
No, man. Him did busy, I deliver 1.5 and did busy, I fix up a whole heap of things, including...
Him did busy, I deliver 1.5.
But remember, when you take a decision, man.
One of the reasons why I said that
Collin laughing. Let me hear the call. Again.
Hold on, Hold on, little bit, caller.
Because Collin, boy, if you deliver 1.5,
Hold on, caller.
You understand that? Boy, if you dip in a Jamaica's pocket and deliver 1.5, to give back money to the people,
Yeah, man. Me understand. So, him totally forget about the time limit in the 100 days.
The idea was that.
And the idea of sleeping with the doors and your windows open, that was inspirational.
Remember, you don't forget about those things. The idea is that to do
one of the promises that he made,
Hold on, caller. Let Marlon finish. Go ahead, Marlon.
No, I'm through. Let the caller go.
Go ahead, caller.
Observation.
Yeah, so one of the promises that he made was very tangible, was setting an election date, a fixed one.
Oh, yes. That too.
So should we now say and assume that this man is a liar?
So an election date, there's something going on. So not a liar, caller. There's something going on now called a Constitutional Reform Commission or Committee. Now, in order to have fixed election dates, Jamaica will now have to get to a point where in our constitution, we define and prescribe what the term of the parliament is in a specific way. At present, it loosely defines it, but you have to set it out in a specific way and change how elections are called. Because at present, as you know, the holding of an election is in the gift of the Prime Minister. He determines when that happens, and what we have to have going forward is a prescribed date. For example, in the US, they have the first Tuesday, the month of November, and their president-elect is inaugurated on January 20, the year following. So we would have to have some constitutional changes, but we are down the wicket where that is concerned. Consultations have been held in terms of the work of the Constitutional Reform Commission, and we look forward to the fruit of their labor. A bill has been presented in the House of Parliament.
Thanks to that, caller. Let's take another call. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, sir. I'm calling about the happening, what taking place in this country.
Go ahead, you
Yes,
have
sir.
one
Road
question.
affix left, right, and center.
Yeah, the JLP. I'm saying the JLP is doing a great job.
Yes, sir.
The JLP is doing a great job. I'm 41 years old and I see what you see a rise in billing, going up cranes and those things, economic benefits. See what the Miami Herald said, Jamaica is a powerhouse in the Caribbean.
I beg to differ. Because we are heading in a
to
recession.
the caller is, the question to the caller is,
recession.
Caller, the question to you really now is, would you give up 8 consecutive years of no new taxes for a set of people who have Damian Crawford, who wants to come with a special tax to fund education, and Dayton Campbell, because he heard the public's pushback. That's why I'm walking back in the
Campbell needs to fix up where he come from the bamboo. And stop the political platform talking foolish.
All right, caller.
Okay.
All right.
So Collin, says it's the public pushback dating them to make him walk it back door. But I want to say something on that. Just 30 seconds on that.
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
It would have been preferable if Dayton had simply withdrawn the utterance. But to do it in a way where you're saying he was basically pivoting on interpretation. Remember, just like me and you, Dayton talk English and him talk patois. He was very clear. He said, now is the time for us to put a little thing. To put a little thing, and when you say now is the time, it means that you're referring to something that is not currently being done. And when you say put a little thing, you're talking about an additional thing. So it couldn't be from the existing suite of taxes.
What the
so it was unfortunate. I think it was unfortunate for Mark Golding to have come out and tried to spin it in the way he did, because those things taken together are just insulting to the intelligence.
No, didn't admit that he was clumsy in saying what he said, because the little thing was meant to be put a little thing aside for farmers. The farmers fund is what Dayton really is pushing, because our farmers needs assistance. Marlon,
so the public will be the judges of that.
Earlier in the piece, I'd ask you though, where are we now in terms of growth? Let's get back to there.
Excellent.
Presently now.
Because remember, I was making the point. When we had COVID, your growth fell off. But in the years coming out of COVID, growth went up. Particularly because you had a lower base in the previous period. So
because we almost dropped to zero. So we were recovering.
Yeah, so now, so just, which is why I'm setting the foundation, laying the foundation. Mm-hmm. So in the aftermath of COVID, growth was going up. In recent quarters, probably in the past 5 or so quarters, the growth we have seen in the Jamaican economy has slowed. It has been at a slower
10
pace.
quarters of slow.
It has been at a slower pace, right? So you have deceleration.
Right.
Deceleration, not because there's a recession. An economic recession is defined as 2 consecutive quarters of economic contraction. At present, at present, the December quarter numbers have not come in as yet.
Tell us about the quarter before.
We contracted. We contracted by 3.5%.
Right.
As Dayton Campbell indicated when he was speaking on Nationwide and elsewhere, agriculture accounted for 12% of that. But what
12.5.
Dayton did not mention to his listeners on the program was that burial would have impacted Jamaica's economic performance in that quarter, July rather to September. So it was
but the economy was slowing down before burial.
And I've already acknowledged that, because what I said, the economy, in other words, Collin.
So what's the prediction for the December quarter? The quarter
so let me say this, Collin. Remember, I listen to the same commentary and observations that you listen to. So I hear what Ralston says, and the fact that, so what the point Ralston is making is that don't throw Beryl under the bus. Don't blame Beryl, because even before Beryl come out yard, we were in a slowdown prior to that. And that is a point with which I concur, because the data corroborates that. I can't fly in the face of the data,
Right.
See? And I don't seek to hoodwink people. So just
what's the prediction for the December quarter?
Before I come to the prediction, because I'm not in the business of predicting. I am hoping that based on the activities, the booming activities that we saw in December in terms of entertainment in particular, in terms of also just commerce generally, as people bought and spent for the Christmas period. I believe there was a report from NCB in the December period there where it spoke about how much was in circulation based on transactions at the level of the ATM machines.
And it was less than last year.
So I look forward to what will come. I'm just awaiting the indication that will come ultimately from the Bank of Jamaica, the PIOJ, and Statin. That may come sometime in February. We're just looking for that because at that point now, we will be able to establish whether Jamaica, in terms of the economic definition, is technically in a recession or it is otherwise. What I will say is that it is unfortunate that I'm getting the sense and I'm picking up that for political purposes, persons are not batting for Jamaica, and it is as though commentators, like a particular gentleman on Power 106 in the mornings, they are hoping to actually see recession materialize.
No, Marlon.
But why would he be harping on that? Why would he be harping on that?
You hear what you just said? You said
you're not flying Jamaica not going in a recession.
Hold on, but you are saying that you're not flying in the face of the data. But if you follow the data, which that gentleman follows, it is clear.
Collin, we're not. Let's be clear.
You can't run a country on hope and gut feelings, Marlon. What is the government doing as it relates to production in this country?
But you can't put that to me when I just said to you a while ago that I'm anticipating, I'm sitting patiently and awaiting the numbers from the competent authority. And I actually listed them out a while ago. Statin, DOJ, PIOJ. You know so?
Fair enough.
But I expressed a personal view.
But here's the question I'm asking. If you are hoping
that Jamaica will. But so that's a different thing because that is an opinion of mine.
Right. And if you're hoping, then there must be some things that you're resting that hope on. What are the things that you're resting that hope on? Where are the production? What is this government doing as it relates to start producing more so that we can fill that gap? We are now buying.
Excellent question. So let me respond
talk to me.
So what I would remind yourself and I would remind Ralston, and I would point out to yourself and other observers in Jamaica, is that government spending is part of the calculus where economic output is concerned in the country, or generally the measure of the value of goods and services produced in the country. In other words, GDP. You see, in the quarter you're referring to, we had some adverse impact from the weather. But we did do a considerable degree of road work because you will hear Ralston mention it a lot. Capital expenditure, Collin, does help considerably in boosting GDP. And you
want to just learn that?
Capital expenditure. No,
want to just learn that this year?
How can we just learn that?
But
when we are the ones.
For most of the 8 years, you sit down and didn't fix the roads. You sat down and defunded the JUTC.
Well, that is not so.
You allow the JUTC to run a ground that you had to go buy 100 bus one time, and with the purchase of 100 bus, you're still at just about 240, coming from 460.
All right, let me say this to you. We purchased garbage trucks. We've purchased buses.
And we still don't have enough garbage trucks.
In terms of infrastructure and capital expenditure, because you said we allow the infrastructure to deplete or deteriorate.
Yes.
And what I'm saying to you is that between 2024 and 2023, Ford Green will indicate to you that we would have fixed about 70 farm roads in each of those years. Farm roads are critical support and enablers to agriculture. Yes, because
fix them at what quality, Marlon? Throw shingle upon them.
Farmers. Before we come to the quality,
I'm challenging you that those farm roads were not fixed properly.
But hold on, and that's a separate issue. But let's just say this. Let's understand this. When you fix farm roads, you are providing linkages for the farm gate to market. In terms of the quality of the farm road, you and I, Collin Bell over in East Portland, and Marlon Morgan here in St. Catherine, we can't be everywhere. So that's why we have people who are hired now to vet the road work that is done by contractors.
But if you don't get quality for the money, Marlon, the farm would mash up as soon as you don't fix them.
But you are coming at a point and not understanding what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there are people who are employed to vet, to quality assure the farm roads that are put down, so that that is the mechanism through which the taxpayer like Collin Bell and Marlon Morgan can derive some assurance that our tax dollars are not being thrown down the drain. So what we should take the discussion up to now are those persons, if it is that farm roads are not being to the quality standards and in keeping with the specified requirements and so on, we should take up the issue with those persons who have a vetting and quality assurance role to play. Because we can't get up a daytime and go down to Hounslow or go up to Michael Phillips's Northwest Manchester if you go look on farm roads. People are being paid to do that. So that is where our advocacy must be instead of politicking on the issue. So just to be clear,
but who employ those people, Marlon?
You just asked about. We were talking about
most
hope.
of those people are some of your surrogates.
You were talking about hope, and I have pivoted away from an expression of my own optimism because I say I'm hoping that we would have had a certain economic outturn. And you asked, boy, what has actually happened? What would you be predicating that hope on? And you're quite right. I can't just pluck hope out of the sky. I don't even like to deal with that particular stretch of road. I like to deal with Belmont Road, right? So just to be clear, you have capital expenditure that is contributing to GDP. And what the government is doing for farmers now in terms of production incentives and bringing more acreage into production by way of irrigation. You asked me a while ago, what is the basis on which I am predicating my hope? And what I'm saying to you is that here in Jamaica, we have an initiative in St. Elizabeth and Manchester where we're tapping into water from the Black River and Essex Valley to bring more acreage into production. In terms of the plains of St. Catherine and Clarendon, the St. Catherine and Clarendon belt are being tapped to bring more irrigation water to them. Because as we know, farmers go out in the field and do their thing. But farmers are oftentimes at a disadvantage because they are reliant on the weather, on rainfall for irrigation, as opposed to having irrigation via pipelines.
Let me take a question for you. Go ahead, caller.
Rastan can call in too, you know. Well, Raleigh Sam can call in, man.
You can't manage Raleigh, Marlon, man.
Because I'm not in the business.
You can't manage Raleigh. No.
Collin,
practice yourself before you go Raleigh, because you now can't manage that. Go ahead, caller.
Let me say this. Hold on,
the caller.
I'm not in the business of saying something that don't go so. Hello. So if Jamaica borrow, the determination is that Jamaica is borrowing. The truth of the matter is that this whole argument about borrowing, which make Ralston's skin catch a fire, is that Jamaica is not in the realm of the unsustainable full borrowing that Omar Davies we're not going with. Oh God, I could lose the caller.
Yeah, but you should have just made the caller go on. But Marlon,
no apologies.
The fact is, people. Why is it though that the entire Jamaica Labour Party administration, the parliamentarians, except for Mike Henry, voted for the banks and voted against the people of Jamaica on the bill that Fitzjackson brought to the parliament?
Well, put it this way. If you type right now into Google, government consultant breaks ranks, something to that effect, you will see a particular view that I expressed. Get one of your researchers. By the way, the researcher not come with the numbers yet from the previous thing where them did that research.
You know, so I now follow the chat though. Maybe I might have missed it.
They have,
because I now follow the chat tight.
There's a thing here that says government consultant.
Tell us what it says, Marlon. You know what it says.
But that's how I bring it up. But I'm really walk around. All right. So the caption of it was a nationwide story because I was speaking on nationwide. It says here, government communications consultant parts with administration on banking fees.
Talk to me.
It says here, a government of Jamaica consultant is breaking ranks with the Andrew Holness administration over the banking fee controversy. Communications specialist in the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries, Marlon Morgan, says the government should support the proposals made by South St. Catherine Member of Parliament Fitzjackson in his bill to amend the Banking Service Act of 2014. And it says here, Mr. Jackson has been struggling to get the bill passed in the House of Representatives, but government MPs, including Industrial and Commerce Minister Karl Samuda, has voted down the bill. They have also maintained that more than 90% of the bill's provisions already exist in current legislation, but Mr. Morgan doesn't agree. And then they went on to mention something about Damian King. And then the other paragraph which concerns me, it says here, Mr. Morgan notes that persons who are cashing checks have to do so at the banks stipulated by the writer of the check. He also says banks are now using fees to generate a majority of their income. So let me just explain something about me, Collin.
Yeah.
I don't arrive at positions lightly in terms of, views and things. I kind of study things for myself, but importantly, there's a turn of phrase that I had used then that I will use tonight again. On the bank fees matter, my personal position was that, right? You're following me? My position on the banking fees issue was that we should not allow the best to be the enemy of the good. Because the point that was being made by the administration at the time was that we are actually doing something better will come than what is being proposed by Jackson. And I was saying and thinking to myself, and actually said it on radio as well, as you're seeing in the article there. I was making the point that, all right, since there are merits to what Jackson has brought, we can't go with those because it is foolhardy to make the best the enemy of the good. So although this is not the Rolls Royce, but you will admit that a Nissan Tida is still better than a bicycle. It can get us to Montego Bay faster, no sir?
Correct. So, let me take the call and come back to it. Yeah. Don't lose your thought. Go ahead, caller.
Mr. Bell, good night.
Yes, sir.
It's not the first time I listen to Marlon. Very brilliant guy. Very, very brilliant. I respect his opinion. I respect his thought.
Speak up for me. You have a speaking on the phone.
No, I think what Marlon needs to do is find himself in an area that he can do more for Jamaica than what he's doing now with the party. He needs to go on his own.
All right, I think give me area.
No, but let him unpack that a bit. What
so let's come back to the banking thing, Marlon. So you are saying that the fact that your party voted against the people of Jamaica and voted for the banks, you were not in agreement with them?
I wouldn't say voted against because so the idea is not voted against the people of Jamaica. They took a position where they were placing their marbles and banking on this wonderful, fit for purpose and more brilliant Rolls Royce.
So where is it?
The Nissan Tida.
Where is it?
I personally, right now, I would have to go and research to find out what's the latest on this matter. I think you can perhaps invite Jackson on the program to perhaps comment on this matter.
Marlon,
but the principle of it is
the members of parliament on the Jamaica Labour Party side voted in favor of the big banks and voted against the people of Jamaica.
I can't fault you for expressing your opinion on the matter. That's a takeaway that you have. If you call 10 people into a room on the same question, you may come away with 10 different perspectives on the issue. Because what I'm saying to you is that I don't subscribe to the view that the then administration, because this was in the Holness administration's first term, that they voted against or went against the people of Jamaica in favor of the banks.
If you were in the parliament, then you'd voted with you'd have voted with Jackson. Isn't that what you're saying to us tonight?
What I'm saying to you tonight is that at any given time, at any hour of the morning or evening, I vote according to what my considered view is and what I consider to be right by the Jamaican people.
And you would have voted for the Jackson bill?
I'm not getting into the business of hypotheticals because I never went there.
You soon become a senator.
I never went there.
So you soon become a senator. So start telling us which part to go from now.
So my vote, the people can rest assured, Collin. Because first of all, I'm not a rubber stamp man. I process phenomena for myself, I examine things for myself, and form my own opinions. However, notwithstanding personal opinions, you will accept that within a context of collective responsibility and caucusing either as an opposition or caucusing as government members, because this is how the parliamentary system works. You caucus. There are matters on which you will get to exercise a personal opinion in terms of a conscience vote. For example, abortion, the death penalty, people may exhibit, or even the bugger issue, you may have a conscience vote. And so, especially in a context where you're a member of the political executive, you will have, you will have your caucus, and you will essentially express and articulate the position of the caucus that you're associated with. However,
so maybe you wouldn't turn up like Mike Henry.
No, man. But what each of us must do is that when we are in the space where the discussion is happening, if nobody in the room now back fit, if you believe that nobody in the room, as far as you're concerned, now back for the Jamaican people in the way they ought to, you have to make sure, say, you turn up and make your voice count and your advocacy heard.
Marlon, we are in the year of an election. There are still 7 people in the parliament who the Integrity Commission said are under investigation for illicit enrichment. The Prime Minister is one such. There were 8. The Prime Minister was named. Do you believe, Marlon, with that still hanging over Andrew Holness's head, that he should still lead the Jamaica Labour Party in a general election?
My answer to you is an emphatic yes, and I'll tell you why. The Integrity Commission has its work to do, Collin. The Integrity Commission is an appropriately constituted commission of the Parliament. They have their mandate. They were established by statute. And so they have a role to play in terms of the anti-corruption architecture of the country. The Integrity Commission undertook, what's it called? An investigation where the question of illicit enrichment would have featured. And notwithstanding its investigation, and indeed the Integrity Commission's contracting of the services of an independent international forensic accounting examiner, no finding of impropriety or illicit enrichment against the Prime Minister was established by the Director of Investigation. Instead, what he did is that in circumstances where he couldn't conclude, perhaps in the way he wanted to conclude, he suggested that the matter be relitigated, by another entity, knowing full well that based on a memorandum of understanding, he was able to solicit the services of FID during the conduct and exercise of his substantive investigation. We think that those things are good grounds on which the Prime Minister has brought legal action, because the Prime Minister is a citizen like any one of us, and he is able to avail himself of legal remedies to the extent that he feels aggrieved by the actions of the Integrity Commission. So he's
do you think the Prime Minister do you think the Prime Minister hid the truth from the Jamaican people when he was asked about the members of the
illicit, exactly. So
and he said he asked far and wide.
No, so he didn't, and I'm responding to you now as I did to which other program was that on? Was it on Conrad O'Brien? Yeah, I think it may have been on OB's program. So let me just reiterate. The Prime Minister was in Clarendon. A question was put to him by the media house. He responded truthfully, indicated that he has canvassed people, he has checked far and wide, and nobody has had self-identified. The point is that after that day, the following day, the Integrity Commission wrote a letter to the Prime Minister to essentially telegraph to him that he's under investigation for illicit enrichment.
And that's where I wanted to go in.
Because although there were correspondence to him, seeking further and better particulars from him surrounding his statutory declarations, it was not clearly telegraphed to him any at all.
But here's the question now, Marlon. Here's the question. Within 24 hours of the Prime Minister giving that answer to journalists, he found out that he was under investigation. Don't you think the Prime Minister had a responsibility?
No, the Prime Minister had a responsibility to uphold the law.
Let me just finish.
Sure.
Do you think the Prime Minister now, knowing within 24 hours after the question that he was one under investigation, that he should have come to the country and told us him?
The Prime Minister has an obligation to uphold the law. The Integrity Commission law essentially prohibits persons from commenting on IC investigations, yes, until when the reports are tabled. As you will recall, prior to the Integrity Commission, we had the Office of the Contractor General.
So let me ask you a question, Marlon.
But before we come to the other question, man, remember say me I write paper 2 now, you know. We're done with paper 1 already, and we move on to paper 2 now. And I hope to get a grade 1. Zin? That's why I call it out Cape 1 and Cape 2. I hope to get to a grade 1. Zin? So just to be clear, one of the experiences we had with the Greg Christie-led Office of the Contractor General is that people were placed in an invidious position where the Greg Christie would come out and make a big song and dance that Collin Bell is on the investigation, damage the man's reputation, cause people to believe that, boy, well, Shaka Fame thief up things now. Back out prison.
Under investigation.
Only to come back with no establishment of guilt, no established finding of guilt and nothing. But you would have lost their good name. It is not useful and appropriate for people to lose their good name on basis that may well amount to be not. And what we're saying is that it would not have been reasonable for the Prime Minister, contrary to the current Integrity Commission laws, to come out and indicate that, hey, I am under investigation.
So why then?
Therefore put himself in an invidious spot.
Why did he answer the day before? Why the day before when he was asked? Why he never said to journalists at the time, based on the Integrity Commission Act,
I'll tell you why.
I cannot answer your question. Instead, he said, I asked far and wide. Far and wide.
So I'll tell you why. Because he may have been able to confirm that X, Y, and Z are under investigation, but it would have been remiss of him and indeed contrary to the spirit of Integrity Commission laws for him to have named anyone.
So that day then he deceived the people of Jamaica that day?
No, man, you don't understand the point I'm making. So let me go again.
Marlon, no, you don't need to clear the point with me because what is happening?
No, man, I'm clear on the question.
The Prime Minister deceived the Jamaican people? Because based on what you're saying,
Prime Minister did no such thing.
No, based on the law, you are saying based on the Integrity Commission Act, the Prime Minister should not speak on it.
Let us go back. No, man, it's not that say should not speak. Let us go back to the point I'm making here.
Go back.
The Prime Minister was asked a question. A question was put to him. He may have indicated that yes, I'm aware of persons being under investigation. He could not name anybody.
He did not indicate that. He said,
this is the point I mean.
He asked far and wide,
no
one in his side indicated to him.
Collin, I'm not saying anything differently, my brother.
Right.
My position is a simple one. The Prime Minister had a question put to him, and him say he has checked far and wide. Right. Now, let us say him checked far and wide, and 5 people's name came up. Him could not say Tom, Dick, Harry, Michelle, Sue, and whatever, right?
Hold on, Marlon. Hold on. But when him say him check far and wide, him said nobody out of who him check no indicate that they are under investigation.
Yeah, exactly.
He said that.
Yes.
He never just said him check far and wide and left it. Him said nobody told him that they are under.
Because if he were able to confirm that, he would have confirmed that yes, a couple of people have indicated in the
right. So your point where you make no sense based on the Integrity Commission.
But no, but Collin, you know, understand. That means all right. Let me backtrack a bit. You see, in its annual report to Parliament, the investigation, the Integrity Commission is able to indicate, that is why we get to this number. Remember, we started with this illicit 6,
right?
And then it has now been an additional 2.
So we are at 8. Yeah.
But 8 minus 1 now, right? So we're at 7.
Right.
So walk with me now. The Integrity Commission has basically indicated to the Jamaican people that 7 people are now under probe. That's all?
Yes.
Have
7 more.
Named the 7 people.
No, they have not.
Their names, all right. So the Prime Minister, when the question was put to him as to whether he's aware of anybody being under investigation, he could have answered in the affirmative if he was so aware. Am I correct?
Yes.
He could not divulge, however, who those persons were, because it's the same reason for which the Integrity Commission cannot divulge or confirm that Mark Golding is under investigation, Andrew Willis is under investigation, or Julian Robinson is under investigation, or Tom Tavares Finch is under investigation. You follow me? So I just want us to understand what each other is saying, because I get the question and I understand it clearly. What you're seeking to consider is whether my answer is inconsistent, and I'm putting it to you that my answer is not, because what I'm saying is that in keeping with the requirements and the guardrails established and set out in the Integrity Commission Act, you cannot essentially
not that you cannot, you should not.
Investigation, you should not, exactly. Because
but
you shall not do it.
But the Integrity Commission chairman made it clear that if someone who is under investigation wants to admit that they are under investigation,
and there's another officer at the parliament,
it's not a problem.
There's another person who gave a different perspective. I think that may have been Greg Christie himself. So just to be clear, because there was
Greg Christie did not differ.
Collin, there was a variance in responses.
Who differ was Pernell Charles Jr.
Well, let me allow you and then I respond. So my time now, just to be clear, my brother, there was a variance. The Integrity Commission sat across from the members. There was a variance in the ranks of the Integrity Commission on that particular question, because I believe Panton indicated in that yes, them can self-identify, and Greg Christie, I believe it was. It may have been Greg Christie or Ryan Evans or Kevin Stevenson. But one of those three gentlemen indicated, contrary to what Panton was saying, that he believes that you shouldn't comment on it. All
right, let's move from that.
But the point I'm making, my brother, is this. It's a simple one. Prime Minister will have his day in court. A determination will be made one way or another. But what is clear, and why to understand this and walk with me, is that Mark Golding is auditioning to be Prime Minister of this country. Mark Golding had the Integrity Commission of the PNP express a considered opinion, having examined the matter concerning Lawrence Rowe.
Yes.
The PNP's Integrity Commission deemed Lawrence Rowe not eligible, not suitable. They didn't find him to be fit and proper. Mark Golding went against that. The question here is this. If you are auditioning to be PM and you have a constituted organ of your political party, which you have reposed certain power, you have vested certain powers in them, and you ought to repose optimal levels of confidence in them. On what basis did you usurp or veto the considered opinion and assessment of the PNP's Integrity Commission? And the bigger question is this. If you could do that to the PNP's Integrity Commission, what would you not do to any other organ of the Jamaican state were you to be afforded the opportunity to serve this country as Prime Minister?
That's chalk and cheese. Two different things though, Marlon. Two different things, because
the man usurped the PNP's Integrity Commission. In other words, Lawrence Rowe was deemed to be not fit and proper, and Mark Golding went against that, as he has said in his January 10th
Yes,
letter.
and I'm sure the reasons why the Integrity Commission wouldn't sign off on Lawrence Rowe was made clear to Mark Golding. So maybe those are reasons that he said, all right, a man deserves a chance, I'm going to give him a chance. But hold on.
Why have an entity then? Why have an entity then if you can just arbitrarily and unilaterally go against it?
As I said, it depends on the reasons.
It means that the Integrity Commission for the PNP is just form.
No.
In form,
but here's the question for you, Marlon. Here's the question for you. 7 other people in the Jamaica Labour Party are under investigation for illicit enrichment because the PNP says.
At this point, we don't know if there's 7 people. The PNP can't say anything.
Hold on.
Other persons are under investigations. We don't know if they are PNP members or JP members.
All right, 7 other persons.
I even saw an Observer report the other day saying 5 PNP members are under investigation. So I don't even know what to believe. And what is clear is that, as we have seen from the PNP, it can assert and say anything. But Lawrence Rowe says he has his receipts.
But you're the question I'm asking you. You're the question I'm asking you.
Because going into an election. But 5 seconds before you come to the question, just 5 seconds. The PNP, in the face of the allegations made by Lawrence Rowe, has said nothing no go so. Lawrence says he has his receipts. So the same PNP members who Mark Golding asks if they're under investigation, even if they're under investigation,
which Lawrence Rowe is not one.
Just to be clear. Even if they're under investigation, they can't say nothing no go so. Lawrence Rowe wouldn't be under investigation because Lawrence Rowe is not a parliamentarian. We're dealing with parliamentarians here. There are 7 parliamentarians under probe for illicit enrichment. Let the Integrity Commission do them work. We just need to hold our horses, relax our little selves, and let the Integrity Commission do them work.
How do we go into a general election with possibly those 7 people running back for parliament?
Remember now, my friend, we're a nation of laws, not of men. We have the presumption of innocence in this country. People are entitled to their good name, and people will be able to respond to any finding or any, certainly adverse finding. Because just to be clear, and I want to put this to you, do you accept and appreciate, Shaka, that consequent on these investigations by the IC, that it may come with reports that do not find adversely against these 7 people?
There is that possibility.
Yes or no? All right, that's a good response.
But don't you think these names should come forward before a general election?
It can't come forward because it's expedient to Shaka and the PNP. The law is the law, and the law
but
says
you just said some of them might be PNP, so where you care who is on it?
Some of them may be PNP, but Collin, step back a bit. Some of those persons may be PNP, but Marlon is an observer of the law. That's why
Marlon, you're an observer of the law. Marissa Dalrymple Philibert resigned as member of parliament.
I adhere to that. Hold on a moment, but jump invigilator and examiner. Can you examiner and invigilator the same?
Yeah, man.
Don't just jump for one. We just
we're past 10 o'clock doing a Marlon, so I want to get in about 3 more questions before you go.
Yeah, jump over the physics test and put one biology test in front of me or whatever.
I don't like physics and math me I put in front of you, right?
Because the candidate answered the question them so well. But just to be clear, Collin,
yeah,
I am an adherent to law. I am not a delinquent before the law. Yes, with the exception of a traffic violation here or there, I do my best to try and uphold Jamaican law and abide by the law. So what I'm saying is that although it would be politically expedient for the name of a PNP person to be put out there if they are being investigated by the IC for illicit enrichment, I wouldn't want that to be the case because I have to operate with and support what is set out in the law. The law says you cannot name Julian Robinson, you cannot name Michael Phillips, and that is what it is, my brother. You're on to Marissa now. Marissa is fine, and she'll be winning her seat.
The fact, though, Marlon, that she cost the country over $30 million because of what really happened. Hold on. We know the Integrity Commission report came out, said that she didn't report on the car. She resigned as Speaker of the House, but she went further and resigned as Member of Parliament.
Because when this matter came up.
And now $30 million, maybe about $40 million later, she's back as Member of Parliament, and the court now says that she have a case to answer.
So just to start at the back end, there's no denying that the by-election in South Trelawney had a price tag. I don't believe, however, that in the way the PNP is framing this issue, that you can place a price tag on Jamaica's democracy in the way.
But don't you think it was a blunder to resign as Member of Parliament, Marlon?
I don't think it was a blunder because guess what? I operate in a different way than that. My own view, and as I said on radio on several programs, I believe that Marissa Dalrymple Philibert went too far in resigning entirely as a Member of Parliament.
That's what I'm asking.
I'm not opining that it is a blunder because I can sympathize.
So what you want to call it?
And I understand. In other words, she did something that she need not to do. That she needed not to have done.
That's the question I'm putting forward to you. I don't have an issue with her resigning as Speaker of the House, but Marissa, to resign as Member of Parliament and want to come back as Member of Parliament with the issue, the same issue why you resign as Member of Parliament existed when you came back. It never changed. Why did you put the country through that?
So just to be clear, Marissa Dalrymple, as I said before, did something in my view that she needed not to have done. She had the Integrity Commission making an adverse finding against her. Her position as Speaker of the House had become untenable. All she had to do was to step back from that position and resume her seat as Member of Parliament for South Trelawney. She went further than that, which in my view, she needed not to have done. But I'm not going to get into the business of opining on that matter to say she done that. because I understand what would have been operating on her mind. She felt that she was being chastised and castigated in the public and that it was not worth it, and she walked away entirely.
And
however,
for political expedience, your party bring her back.
But Collin, it doesn't end there. You will appreciate that between Marissa Dalrymple walking away and Marissa Dalrymple coming back in terms of being nominated in the by-election, a period of time to ensued. You accept that a period of time ensued, right? Over that period of time, my brother, the constituents that Marissa had been representing for several years, over 15 years or so, would have impressed upon her, Mamadi Do. We are begging.
She should have waited till the general election and this matter clear up. It don't look good, Marlon. The matter is the same matter.
But I'm not dealing in the wood.
No, but I'm talking about the $30 million that it costs Jamaica taxpayers.
I've already told you my opinion that she should have, because since we are dealing with shoulda, because I don't like to deal with the woulda, coulda, shoulda business, but let me oblige and deal with a bit of shoulda. She shoulda resign as speaker at the time and go resume her seat as the member of parliament for Trelawny Southern. You follow me? However, some things took place between the period that she resigned the seat and when she was nominated by the JLP as its candidate. People can feel differently about a matter from at different points in time. So she felt a particular way and she stepped away. The people would have impressed upon her, Mama D, come back, come represent you. We believe in you. Never mind the naysayers. Shut tune out the detractors. Collin Bell will always be a detractor.
And $40 million to the taxpayers of Jamaica. $40 million to the taxpayers of Jamaica.
So it moved from 30 to 40.
No, 30 is for the electoral office. 30 is from the electoral office. But I'm sure you guys spend about another $10 million for campaign and everything.
That's and it may have been more than that. But just to be clear,
hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Collin.
It is about the amount of money that this government has squandered, Marlon. That's the problem. You have squandered a lot of money.
There was a vacancy in South Trelawny, and in the fine traditions of Jamaica's democracy, you fill that vacancy either at a general election or at a by-election. The determination
look like your bench weak, Marlon. You couldn't find nobody else.
The determination that was made at the time was that we go the route of a by-election. Zin? Now, the question is, there are 3 by-elections that are coming up. Will the PNP be contesting the Chancery Hall by-election, the Olympic Gardens Division by-election, and the Denham Town by-election?
Those are local government divisions?
That's right. Yes, man, those 3. Chancery
the PNP
Hall
will
division,
contest. All local government seats. Right
and
now.
I have an important question for you now. What if the outturn in the KCMC, consequent on those by-elections that I referenced, is of such that the popular vote changes in the KCMC? Do you think Mayor Swebe should demit office as mayor in preference for whoever the AJLP would wish to put forward?
And I answer your question this way. Fix Clarendon.
No, man, remember, we deal with the principle here.
Yeah, man, but Clarendon is happening right now. You are posing an hypothetical. There is a reality case.
My answer to that is no. Because
there's a real case right now.
Collin, if I may, I just established to you and I just reiterated several times over that I'm about upholding the law. Yes. The legislation is very clear. Zin?
I think you should have got to court, and if you ask me my views, I think the court should rule.
The legislation is clear, though. The legislation is clear. If you have a tie in the division, the distribution of the divisions between the 2 sides, JLP, PNP, you break that tie based on the popular vote. But that is for the purpose, Collin, of establishing a mayor, or determining rather a mayor.
Right.
In the case of the Clarendon Municipal Corporation, as is the case in the KCMC, a mayor has already
exists.
A mayor is already in place.
Well, all I'm saying, Marlon.
Look at what the law said. That's why I'm putting it to you. That let us not look at the law with expediency. Don't focus on say. So if you go into the expediency, Collin, you get into trouble. You have to just try and stick to the root of principle. Because that is what I'm saying.
I have looked at the law.
10 seconds. Just 10 seconds before coming.
No, hold on. Let me just say this. I have looked at the law.
I'll yield and then 10 seconds after.
I look at the law and where the law sits right now, as it relates to the change, the law is silent on it. And that's why I would love to see a court rule on it
I mean,
for future.
right. But because those things are helpful, because
yes,
it will help us as a jurisprudence, the Jamaican jurisprudence.
And we are still a young democracy.
Will be helped to settle, because that's what precedents and judicial judgments do. They help to establish precedents in your overall jurisprudence. And what I'm saying here is that as it relates to the IC, and I'm coming back to the point of principle in 10 seconds, it would be politically expedient for a PNP member who is under investigation to be named. But I wouldn't want that to be the case, because I am abiding by the law, which is a principled thing to do, rather than pandering to expediency. Expediency and opportunism is the kind of thing that Mark Golding and Peter Bunting...
No, I don't understand what you're talking about. We're talking about. If the Integrity Commission is going to name somebody, they have to table a report in the Parliament.
There you go. But prior to that, you can't do that. So that's what I'm saying.
So who is asking for the Integrity Commission to name anybody without tabling a report in the Parliament?
Let me say why I put that scenario out there. Because you earlier...
If you're talking about expedient, is Andrew Wellness and the GLP who deal with that? Look at what you do with Marissa Dalrymple. You brought back somebody who resigned on an issue. The issue remains, and you bring her back, costing the country $30 million.
Collin, earlier I had mentioned that there may be 5 PNP members, as the Observer has...
We are sure that there are 7 GLP members who are under investigation for illicit enrichment.
And I'm putting it to you that you are incorrect, because you can't be sure. I
am telling you that there's nobody on the PNP side who is under investigation for illicit enrichment. The entire 8 is on the GLP side, and the Prime Minister has been named as the first one.
I'm going to invite you to step back a bit, because you said a while ago that you're sure, and I'm saying, my brother, though it is politically expedient to thump the chest and say that because you are not internal to the IC, you cannot say you are sure. You suspect and you think.
We have canvassed our side, and nobody on our side has received any letter, any communication from the Integrity Commission to say that they are under investigation. Can you say that? Can you say that for your side? Can you say that for your side?
So I'm giving you my response. I have not canvassed my side. However, you are saying you have canvassed a side and nobody on the investigation, because it is the same way in which nobody made an offer of 15 million to Lawrence Rowe, nobody made an offer of a Senate appointment to Lawrence Rowe, and nobody made an offer of a housing agency board appointment to Lawrence Rowe. So it is Duppy who does go out, they're going to make it.
But hold on, in Lawrence Rowe chronology of events, in the chronology of events, he said that he asked to go to a housing agency. Remember? Him same asked that.
That is not being disputed. That is not being disputed. But what he also said is that the PNP president, Mark Golding, essentially acquiesced to that. And
but you saw the letter that you said you are confident that that is from Mark Golding. And it did not.
Mark Golding himself in that letter.
No, but that letter did not offer Mr. Rowe any Senate seat. That letter did not offer Mr. Rowe any money.
Because what the letter did, Collin, is to say that we have already discussed. So what the letter was alluding to is
the
that
letter clearly states
we discussed and agreed to already. We're going to deal with them.
The letter clearly states
in a future PNP administration.
Right, that's what the letter says. And Marlon,
what you said is that for the party discussion.
We work for the party, Marlon.
That's right.
And Andrew Holness knows your capability.
That's right.
Mark Golding now know who Lawrence Rowe is, because Mark Golding, unlike Andrew Holness, young to the politics.
Lawrence Rowe is a ticking time bomb who they start to silence. That's what Lawrence Rowe is,
And maybe that's what the Integrity Commission said to Mark Golding, that listen, this man is a ticking time bomb, but Mark Golding might have said, all right, listen, people grow, people mature. True. So let's give him a chance. And that's what he did, and Lawrence Rowe now show Mark Golding that, listen.
You can't, in a cavalier way and in an irresponsible way, usurp your own organ as a party. Because
my brother,
I understand. The same thing will put him in a trouble now.
I understand, and guess what?
In short,
Mark
what the
Golding,
letter does and what this whole matter does is to exhibit the poor judgment of Mark Golding.
No, I disagree. I disagree that it's poor judgment.
That's fine. But the evidence suggests something to the contrary.
What I saw is somebody who is willing to look at somebody and say, listen, I am giving you a second chance. Let me take the final call for the night, Marlon.
You can't veto your own organ in that way.
The final call for the night.
Come back to Barrington.
Turn off your instrument and listen to your telephone. Go ahead, caller.
Good night. I'm just saying to you that this argument that he continues with, talking about Mark and Lawrence Rowe, he's just using that to sideline all the other things that you're saying. That argument is going.
Yeah, but your man catch on to a straw. Go ahead, caller. Final call.
Respect. Great spin doctor called Marlon Morgan. How you do?
Greetings and blessings.
Yes, Sir Collin.
Turn off your instrument and just listen to your phone. We're hearing your instrument in the background. Just listen to us on your phone.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me.
Yeah, man, your background very nice. You have to turn off whatever you're listening or watching us on and just listen to us on your telephone.
You realize the lady said me I sidestep the argument with Mark Golding and Lawrence Rowe, and I've literally sat on a platform for the past 2.5 hours.
What he's saying is that is what you want to talk about. Your
sidestep a bit more charitable than that, though.
Go ahead, caller.
Right. I noticed that instead of us talking about things that matter in this country, primarily I'm talking to both of you, especially Marlon Morgan. I noticed that we're trying to skew narratives. We have a country to save, Marlon Morgan. Would you agree?
I would say to you that
you don't have a country to save.
We are saving the country. We have a government that is
well, I know. All right, no,
lowest
so direct question
unemployment
ask you. I decide to not answer directly, as any communication consultant would do. Anyhow, so we have a country to save, Sir Marlon.
I'm confirming that we are saving the country. That's why unemployment is at 4.2%.
Where is poverty, Marlon?
12.something%, I gather.
Right.
What?
So
poverty in 2023, rural poverty was at 22%. In 2023.
Poverty, you asked me a question and I just gave you a response. I gather poverty is at 12.something%.
What was it in 2016?
I don't have that figure off the top of my head.
9%. 9%.
My brother, you have a good government. More people in Jamaica are employed than has ever been the case.
And poorer.
Slavery.
More
people. The NIR is at 5 billion. The inflation, which is people's cost of living, contrary to what the PNP would preside over, is at 4.something%. The low band of the targeted range of inflation is in the low range. Because remember, inflation would go up under the PNP because of the taxes that the PNP would want.
No, man. Inflation went up under the PNP because Bruce Golding, Ardley Shaw, and Andrew Wellness.
No, man. And yesterday's me talk about.
Oh, you don't want to talk about 2007 to 2012?
I don't want to talk about that.
Beautiful. I know you would want to talk about 2007 to 2012. I know.
No, what I'm saying is that inflation, I just gave you a figure a while ago, that inflation has come out. The last figure, October inflation, I think, from Statin, is that inflation is at 4.2%, I think it is. It is unemployment that is at 3.something%, which means that we're basically at full employment in the country.
And we are poorer.
At 4.2%. And
Cliff, you said we end 2024 poorer
than we started. But these things are arithmetic and economic outturn realities, The point we're making is that to the extent that we contracted by 3.5%, the gentleman who succeeded you in Eastern Portland, Collin, has a platform that he dubs Context Matters. So we have ended the year, in a
poorer than we started.
In a less than auspicious economic context because of the passage of Beryl. So that is a material fact. The JLP does not control.
But Marlon, you told us earlier that when Beryl come and disaster like that, the economy was solid.
We had this. No, man. The economy was solid insofar as the macroeconomic fundamentals. The stability has been there, notwithstanding the deceleration in growth prior to Beryl. Because remember now, growth is a critical element, and indeed, it is what it all comes down to. But you cannot discount the importance of macroeconomic stability, because that
it
is what
cannot be stable, Marlon. How
How
can be stable and we decline by 3.5% in the July quarter, and we're steering another decline in the December quarter?
It's stable because we declined by 3.5%, and we were able to issue over 14,000 social security checks to displaced and adversely affected people. You do those things and recover quickly from Beryl because of the fiscal buffers you have and because of the resilience in the economy.
My final question to you,
because of the
Marlon
macroeconomic stability.
If there is a decline in the December quarter, what then?
It would mean that in terms of definition, Jamaica is in recession, but contrary to those, or as opposed to those who seek to, relish doom and gloom or peddle doom and gloom, we are an optimistic and hardworking set of people. In his New Year's Day address, you would have heard the Prime Minister set out his store in terms of what the JP government will be doing throughout the course of this calendar year, and indeed throughout 2025, 2026, which includes some of the things that I told you about in terms of agriculture, bringing water and bringing it more reliably so to the Manchester-St. Elizabeth corridor, which is a key production area in Jamaica, as well as the Clarendon-St. Catherine corridor, which is another key production area, which also includes cold storage facilities to ensure that those onion farmers that Dayton spoke about having to throw away their onions because they got rotten, they're rotten and so on.
No, and because you give a lot of people license to bring in onion pan them.
You mean like Omar Newell's company, the company that Omar Newell heads?
No, man, the company that your people heads. Why you don't talk about your
so
people?
It's one company
who's bringing in
onion
too.
You're the one who's
bringing
onion. My brother, you bring up
talk
the
about your people, them.
Collin, you bringing in, and the truth of the matter
your
is that
people are bringing in
the
most.
Person,
your people are issuing the
Same
license.
person
Omar Newell is not in government.
My brother, Omar Newell is a constituent in Enterprise Jamaica. Is that so or that is not so?
Yes, but he's not sitting on the government benches making decisions for this country.
The very man who wants to be Prime Minister is a man who owns an operation or is associated with an company that brings in food into the country.
One thing I can tell you about Mark Golding. When Mark Golding came into politics, Mark Golding came into politics as a businessman, unlike the Prime Minister who came into politics broke. Thank you very much, Marlon. It has been a pleasure talking to you.
He came into politics rich,
unlike your Prime Minister who came into politics broke and is now a rich man. Have yourself a wonderful evening, my brother.
From point A to point B in life.
We will talk again.
And step up in life.
Yes, but not on the backs of the people of Jamaica.
No, man, it's not on the back of enterprise and hard work.
Well, the Integrity Commission is looking into that. God bless the Integrity Commission.
Them investigation done, man. The court are looking into it now.
No, man. And I remember the court tell the Prime Minister, that them can't force the Integrity Commission to certify his statutory
filing. But that's fine. But we will see what we shall see when the court determine this thing.
Bless you, my brother.
And tell the comrade to do better than that, because I was here for 2.5 hours, so them can't suggest that I sidestep something.
No, you stood up.
I did not talk about Lawrence Rowe for 2.5 hours.
Not at all. Big up yourself.
Take it easy, my brother. One love.
One love. Marlon Morgan from the GLP Communication. I know enough of my friend them. I say, yo, get him off of the thing. But listen, we don't just sing to the choir. We want to hear their side of the story. You heard Marlon Morgan admit that the government is borrowing. So those of you who are run up on the mouth about the government now borrow and we are tell lie. The government is borrowing to finance the budget. Jamaica have one budget. So every road we are fix, I come out of the budget. Every teacher where I get paid, I come out of the same budget. Every bus where I buy, I come out of the same budget. Time come though for a new direction. You heard me ask him about production, and there has been no plan for production from this government. Over 8 years, going 9 years, and we have not seen any of the production. He also admitted to the failure of the 5 in 4 when I asked him what the highest they have ever gotten to, about 2%. So they have never been able to start that kind of growth that they looked at when they got government in 2016, when they got that solid platform built by Portia Simpson Miller, Peter Phillips, Mark Golding, and a PNP administration. They have never been able to grow the economy. And therefore, if they couldn't grow it in 9 years, then they're not going to grow it in 10 years. The economy is looking for a recession. We're not preaching doom and gloom. We're looking at the data. And the data which he admits says that we had a decline of 3.5% in the third quarter. The fourth quarter has ended, and we are waiting on the figures to come from Statin or the PIOJ. And those figures look very unlikely to do any growth. And once there is a further contraction of the economy, it means Jamaica is going to be in a recession. What does that mean for the people of Jamaica? What does that mean for the fact that they are running off the amount that we have the highest unemployment, but poverty is higher than where it was in 2016? So therefore, the only time in Jamaica that we had full employment was under slavery. Are we going back in slavery under Jamaica Labour Party? Time come for a new direction. Time come for leadership with vision. Time come for leadership with integrity. Time come for people who care about the Jamaican people. One love, my people. May the good Lord continue to bless and keep you. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his light and give you his peace, now and forevermore. Blessings, my people.